Welcome to the Blue Lake City Council meeting. Go ahead and stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. City Clerk Green, would you please establish a quorum?
Yes, Mayor Slotsky.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Scafani.
Here.
Councilmember Napier.
Here.
Councilmember Louis Lusso.
Here.
And Councilmember Bayless.
Here.
All right, I'm a quorum. You can entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Motion, do we have a second? Second. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none. Agenda. Moving on to item number 4, or 5, public comment. Does anyone wish to comment on a non-agendized item? We allocate up to 15 minutes for this session and allocate 3 minutes per person. Does anyone want to speak on non-agendized items? Yes, go ahead.
Talk to me if it's on your agenda. I did not see it there. It has to do with, other than you do have a very brief report out on your manager's report regarding the notice of termination agreement to convey easement and drilling escrow instructions letter that was sent off by your attorney or provided to Aaron McClure by the attorney. Apparently it's on their letterhead. I track these things quite thoroughly. I'm pretty good at this. One fatal flaw I see in municipalities and in areas where non-lawyers decide they want to do lawyering, that ends up being very painful for a lot of people. I went through this letter and the termination. I do appreciate the fact that it said, let's see, a transaction that both parties worked diligently on to negotiate and over an extended period of time. And I definitely agree with that. Of course, that was portrayed the opposite in a prior letter that we had, where one person, being Aaron, was accused of not working diligently. But now we have an admission that that's actually what transpired. The city is in a not a good position on this one, in my opinion, and the opinion of other people that I've consulted in the legal position. There's a statement in here that there's a retained $6,000 annual payment made in connection with the agreement, and the city apparently wants that money back. Apparently, the city doesn't really have any rights at all. This is the rights you were going to have are terminated now, so you have no rights. All you have is obligation, and your obligation is to remove the infrastructure and restore the McClure property to its prior condition. So I highly recommend you head down that pathway. We don't know. $250,000, $500,000 may take to restore. You're digging up a pipe underground. You have to put the trees back the way they were before, removing your infrastructure and everything. So we don't know what that cost is. And before anybody reached this point, they actually should have gone ahead and gotten an estimate for what their obligations are. The $6,000, I believe, if I'm correct, Aaron McClure hasn't received any payments for that, and so that will retroactively go back probably 1.5 years or 2 years. So that's already been expended. I think you're kind of in a real poor position. I did a PRA request for what a tank liner would the estimate was done by SHN. I wanted to get that. You've probably seen that somewhere, what a tank liner would cost. That's probably your only option. Your city manager said it lasts 5 years. I'm guessing that there are ways to make that last 15 or 20 years, but that's no longer an option with this tank. So I highly recommend that you tomorrow morning, first thing, begin the draining process. You turn the water off that goes into the tank, and of course turn your other tank off, which will drain this tank out and eliminate the problem, since you have no more rights to be there. As far, I believe the court will determine as of this date here, which was July 8th, you cease to have any rights, only obligation. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and best of luck to you on this particular topic. I've never seen anything handled as incompetently as this. You should have had your, first thing when I do an escrow, I get a title report, preliminary title report. But I'm over my 3 minutes.
Yeah, I think you are.
I think you're right. So I'll close down really quickly.
Thanks.
So anyway, the preliminary title report was supposed to be ordered out 2 years ago. That was promised. Didn't happen to end here, and so we would have avoided this and been down the path 2 years earlier. Thank you for opportunity to speak.
Full disclosure, we had a technical issue. We're having internet issues with the timers on our system here, so I'll go ahead and give everyone an additional 15 seconds. If they want to come forward and speak on any public agenda items. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on a public agenda item that is not on the agenda? Yes, Aaron, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Erin McClure, and I think Ken pretty much said everything I was gonna say, so what God really put it on my heart to say is. I hope you guys are really watching what's going on in City Hall. It seems like there's a really wonderful staff in there. I go in there a lot and talk to them, and no matter what's going on, they're always super friendly to me and helpful, and I really hope they're not being bullied. So we've had that problem in the past with city managers, as you all know, and I just hope it's being watched. And anyway, that's all I have to say. And I think Kent covered most of the things I can just.
Great, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, I am Lynn Rose. And I was mentioned front and center at the last city hall meeting, the regular one, and I was defamed publicly. And I wish to state, I do not burn trash, thank you. And I could make a snarky segue, but I shan't, because do not become over by evil, but rather overcome evil with good. Romans 12:21. The point being that someone with a concerned blue lakes with an itchy dial finger phoned the clear skies, sunny air of Blue Lake and said, hey, check out that Lynn Rose chick. She's like burning stuff. And so he comes over in his big truck, rolls up, and nobody can find her address because he's like 1, 2, 3 addresses, and plugs down, and I bring up a little chair and I take notes, which I still have, and I say, hey, this is what you can burn, this is what you can't burn. I have the burning permit, and we're doing it inside our humble home. And I don't attend these because I've been attending family and hard 30 faithful years of marriage, 11 kids and their friends. And I don't have time for this, as important as it is. But if someone's going to defame me publicly, I'm going to say, I do not burn trash, but I carefully, like a Proverbs 31 woman, nip my garden, a scant acre, and burn all the dry brush, including the unneighborly waste piled over my fence, which I then dry and burn. And I am a PG&E, how you say, efficient home. Thanks be to God. That's all I got to say. Amen.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Being none. Julie, go ahead.
I'm gonna do a mic test first and make sure you guys can hear me if that's okay.
Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Lynn, thanks for coming in tonight. I did feel that my neighbor was kind of getting thrown under the bus with that one, but seeing in the last week, they have just poured their hearts out into doing everything they can to be presentable and make the neighbors happy. I've always been a happy neighbor. I have no complaints. Thank you for going to supervisors earlier today till like freaking 4:30. There was a lot going on there that I feel the rest of our community really should be paying attention to. They don't allow us to have Zoom on supervisors. It's a really crappy call-in thing. I can't see anybody. It's just really a dysfunctional program. We would like to go back to going to like storm mitigation for this upcoming winter. Anything that we can do to coordinate with the watershed. There was a reason I kind of put this down with Mike at Dave, excuse me, at that meeting to have updates because I knew the same cycle was going to happen where we make everything look like it's going to happen and then it doesn't. Um, our storm mitigation is actually a real issue, and I think whatever we can do with the property owners, CDFW, California Fish and Wildlife, and volunteer forms through the city. We really should be organizing whatever we can grassroots to start working on anything that, and maybe just a workshop day that we start itemizing certain areas of town that we know the gutters kind of in the drains need cleaned out, the creek area that we can debrush and do within our limits as volunteers. But those little things will add up. Parks and Rec, though, no offense, or excuse me, I'm sorry, Public Works. We used to just have Lisa that ran our Public Works. Maybe we're bigger and have a lot more work now, but man, she really kept up with this stuff. And she would get in people for community service that would have to help out with that. And just really feel like our Public Works, I know they do a lot, but man, there's a lot to still like our eyesores all around, and I just don't know how to facilitate fixing that. And our manager, you know what? I just hope she's working with everybody. I hate to hear rumors about mistreatment of individuals, and I just want to make sure that we have a working mechanism. Our council, I love all of you guys. You've been such troopers. Continue to do that. We really appreciate everybody sitting there as our council. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Last call? All right, bring it back to council for the consent agenda. Does anyone need anything pulled from the consent agenda or have questions, comments, or consent? Yes, go ahead. That's what you can say.
You want to pull minutes? Or
Yes.
disbursements or both?
Minutes.
Okay, and I'd like to pull disbursements.
Okay, so we need to pull both items. All right, so let's move on to item June disbursement. Go ahead and ask away.
Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff in here that's not common. And I was wondering, I see somebody by the name of Matthew Jurovsky. He's an intern. I was wondering if you could tell us something about what Matthew's doing. He is an intern for the Parks and Rec Department. He's a household state student that we agreed a year ago would do his internship with us, and then at the end of that year, we pay minimum wage. Good, okay, great, thank you. And I'm wondering about, I just want to clarify the 16, it should be check number 13839 to JJ ACPA. Is that for the a full year's audit, or that's just a partial? That's partial, yeah. And REMIF, so we have two checks going to REMIF, one for May and one for June. That's not our monthly premium, is it? Like that's 12 times a year, or is it? It does 12 times a year. It's yeah, for 18 months. Okay. And is that the money that we're for that? Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what, when Jill was here, she brought forward the amounts and we're basically halfway. I would expect any time in the next couple of weeks to get an update from them. I've asked for one twice now, and they were supposed to have made a decision at their June board meeting as to any adjustments that might need to be made to that total and notify all the agencies, and they haven't yet. But as soon as I get something more, we'll know.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think that's all.
Well. Key manager short, would you give a very brief explanation to the public on what the remit is, just very brief?
Sure. The city had contracted with a firm called Remit that they provided our health insurance for a 2-year period. They had a really competitive rate that they had quoted to us, but it was part of a JPA which basically said if the group didn't perform well, then all the agencies that were part of it would then be billed for any overages. So about 9 months ago, we got a notice from them saying that not only were they gonna bill us for previous year's overages, they also were gonna stop providing health insurance. And so what the city had ended up doing at the advice of their attorney was to go ahead and agree to make the payments with basically under duress, with the statement that there was a number of things that hadn't been resolved by them as to exactly how the fund had performed. There were outstanding claims that hadn't been completed. There was efforts to try to claw back some of the money from another agency that they were subsidiaries of. And so all of that stuff was supposed to be worked out by June. And to my knowledge, it hasn't yet been worked out. But in the end, they will have a final number, and under the JPA, short of us taking them to court, we have to pay whatever they say we owe.
Last call for, but
I think one question, it's on page 3 under SHN, there are two, 8,500 and a 5,300 for both for planning. Are those both for housing element?
What number are you talking about?
13891 and 892. Third.
Don't sign with the check number type. That's on my total. Yeah, they're two different invoice numbers. One's for February and one's for March. You'll notice that we're behind on getting our accounts payable paid, which is in part why you have the other item in front of you to try to add some additional accounting staff. Is because it's a struggle to stay up on these things, but this is 2 different months worth of work.
Correct. I was wondering if the work done by that planning, if that's on the housing element.
Not all of it, no. They send us an invoice, it might have 10 different things on it. We have billing codes for each one. Some of them are developers projects, some of them are in-house work, and then some of them are things like the housing element.
And imagine if it had been, you wouldn't have sounded the alarms and letting us know that something changed. Yeah, thank you.
All right, does the public have any questions or comments on these
Well, that would have been nice.
financials?
See that?
Yes, go ahead.
That is not looking very long.
You're still getting-
It's between me and me.
Mm.
I'm still getting your screen.
Okay, well, that's good.
So we are recording, is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
You go ahead.
okay,
Go down.
my question would be directed toward your city manager, so I'll probably wait till she's able to hear what I have to say. My question regarding this basically con job we got from Remus, in my opinion. They were grossly negligent for going on years and years without notifying us of what was going on. And my question is, have we reached out to the other members of the JPA? And are they also willing to engage in litigation? Unfortunately, we was given the money, and I personally wouldn't have given them a penny. I would have put it into an escrow account pending resolution of this matter. But right now, we have no really leverage on that particular group. They probably will declare bankruptcy or insolvency and we'll be out of money. That's unfortunate that this particular process wasn't handled in the manner which I think was appropriate. Originally was, there's nothing wrong. It happens all the time with landlord relationships. It happens all the time in business. You have a dispute, you put the money into an escrow account and then they know it's there and then they don't have your money and they can't run off with you and leave us with nothing. And we basically got the shaft from that particular company. And it's very embarrassing that we will allow that to happen to us here at Blue Lake. Take your opportunity to speak.
Thank
Can
you.
you pause real quick? Can you folks on Zoom still see the video? If someone could just give a thumbs up or verbally confirm. Okay, thumbs up. Well, that's good.
I don't know why
So
that's
will
not-
you assist me with if there's a hand raised for public comment then?
What?
Since I can't see who's raising their
Yeah,
hand.
yeah,
you'll
yeah.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Great. All right, and we wanted minutes pulled or any other further public comment on that item? Okay, great. First.
I would move then that we accept the disbursements report.
Second by Louis Luzo. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Okay, moving on to consent agenda item B, 23 minutes, June 23 minutes.
And I did make a couple corrections. From the packet you guys have now, so just to clarify that, I've corrected Adeline Jones spelling, because that was wrong.
Kiosk.
That was on this agenda. Kiosk was spelled wrong. You think,
Yeah.
they would catch it. And then I clarified that Blue Lake Chamber of Commerce, not City Chamber in the minutes. And I think that was all that I would.
That's all I have.
So, yeah.
The other thing I have under item number 10, the partial donation designation under public comment,
Mhm.
council members. I don't see that we put us under the public comment part usually, so I'm just wondering.
An S on the public comment.
The city council.
Did you those comments?
Yeah. It's like
Oh,
Kathy, John, all 5 of us
Yeah.
that comment.
Okay.
So that I don't know that that should be under public comment because we don't show up there anymore.
If it's better, I can make it like a summary, of what was discussed. I felt like the item was more than an item that was brought up and then passed, so I wanted to include some of the dialogue in there. And so perhaps I can do a paragraph summary of what was discussed.
discussion.
Yeah.
Or with the members of the public, under public comment,
Fair,
and
yeah,
with council
council,
discussion
okay.
under a separate heading.
I will fix that. And I can bring it back to the next council meeting. Do we have any other corrections that anyone? want?
Any other public correction? Anyone on Zoom?
Not that I'm saying.
We entertain a motion to approve the minute.
Is that, did you say you wanted to bring them back?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have directions on the minute? Moving on to item number 7. Emily, what are you here to report on this item? And this is the town square kiosk proposal. Go ahead, fill us in.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Nguyen. I'm the Parks and Rec Director here for the city. And I bring this item today to help close out our Town Square Prop 68 grant. We received this grant a few years ago, and some items still need to be done in order to close out and get our remaining payments. One of them being a artistic installation of some sort. And so I'm suggesting today in this proposal, it's a mosaic that's mounted onto the restroom panel at Town Square. It would be removable, so we could change it out if we want, but that would satisfy that requirement. I would also be adding a Prop 68 sign that would be roughly about 3 feet by 2 feet to be mounted onto the panel as well. And that would be on the side facing the white building. And the last item would be an enclosed bulletin board facing the post office, so people can have more room to share their events and stuff. And it would be used fiscally with the funds remaining from the grant, which is about 132,000. And we still need to look at what other items have need to be reimbursed, but it would come from that portion of money. That's all I've got today.
Quick question, I know it's a little off topic, but can we use the funds to finish the bathroom and have it be a permanent fixture, or does it have to remain as a B&B? Is that a question for Jenny?
There aren't enough funds to do that.
Okay.
Of the 120, there's quite a significant amount of expenses that have not yet been requested. The reimbursement hasn't been requested for yet. And so until we have a final accounting of what remains on that grant, I wouldn't want to make promises how much you have to spend on stuff. We did find out though that we can spend the remaining funds through the end of calendar year 2027. So once we get the final reimbursement to the state parks, then we'll know how much is available and we can come back to you guys with some idea.
Great. Well, council, do you have a question?
I mean, the example that was in the packet, that was just an example of the art, is that correct?
That was an example. I did contact the Makerspace about a month and a half ago and asked if they're able to do a workshop on site for anyone that's interested in helping create the mural or mosaic, and they said yes. But what it actually is, I'd like to talk with them. I'm thinking something generic and, fun under the sun type.
Emily, just so you're aware, at the Arts and Heritage Commission last night, they did express interest in being part of the design on the back of that.
Yeah.
I know there were some designs already potentially selected, but I'm not sure how long you want to delay the project or if reaching out to Arts and Heritage is something like to do?
I think I'd defer to Jenny. I know one of our goals is to definitely, put something that looks good in there, but not get too hung up on exactly since it can be removed and we can make more panels. But I would love to work with the Arts and Heritage and any members of the public too that are interested.
Just for that art portion, how much is that going to cost?
I was looking at mosaic tiles today, and if we were to buy them through, Amazon, it was about $50 for 3 pounds of tiles. How much that gets us, I'm not sure. I think the maker's space owners would have a little more knowledge on what it would take to get us there. But the panel itself, there's dimensions in here. So the goal would be to roughly fill up the panel if we can.
So it's not anything that we need to put out to bid.
Not that I think, nothing too significant.
Last question?
I think we'll have the most informative restroom around.
So you mentioned that there's like $132,000 remaining, but some of that's already spent. We just need to. A good portion of it's spent. So I guess we don't really have a sense of how much we're talking about spending on this, or we're just with 5,000, 10,000, what are you expecting?
So if we were to buy the bulletin board prefabricated from Amazon, looking today is about $400, and that's if we wanted it to be able to be locked and that all weatherproof. Our Public Works also said that they're able to build a frame that swings out similar to the post office one. So it could be more, you just lock it with a mechanism, and that would probably be cheaper. The mosaic tiles, I don't think that's gonna be more than, supplies wise, more than 500 personally. And Makerspace, I'm not sure if they're open to donating their time, but we could ask. And the sign itself is about $150 to $200 from my experience to get the metal one that's gonna last.
It's not optional. It is a requirement of the grant to close it out. We put that.
Yep, for sure. I do have a question. With the, and again, the 132, and I remember reading something about pergola. Will that be covered what there's expenses? Yes, that already been accounted for.
The expenses for the pergola are pretty much covered. There's a small amount of wood that needs to be cut and stained for the cross members. They finally decided how they were gonna connect the top and the bottom. And that's all been donated, and they still have stain that matches the rest of it. And so I don't anticipate any additional expenses for the pergola.
And if those materials have been donated, could we go ahead and have maybe a estimate on what the cost of the materials are, and have that put in as an in-kind donation or donation?
I can ask Schmidt about it if he has a number.
Okay.
One question on the Prop 68 sign. Does it have to be there and that big, or could it be on like a fence and be smaller, or what are the requirements or the dimensions listed?
It's pretty open.
Okay.
The one at the horse arena, park and crash hall are all the same size, but generally, as long as it's mounted somewhere visible to the common eye.
So if we put it on the smaller portion of the metal. But...
Yeah, that's okay too.
Does the public wish to comment on the item? If yes, go ahead, Liz. Please come up and it'll record you.
I just wanted to say briefly that there's a discussion over the rules of having a community bulletin board of some acceptable one during emergencies that people can use and be placed in town where everyone would find the information. So I would suggest that it'd be a good investment in the bulletin board, like it's sturdy, weatherproof, lockable, and just one good bulletin board that's gonna last for a long time.
Great, thank you. Further public comment? Yeah, that one, go ahead.
Adeline Jones. I'm also in favor of the bulletin board. There's our current bulletin board, which was put up in 1984 with a group called the Friends of Blue Lake. Some people might know about that group. And it's really used, and my husband and I and others have through the years fixed it up. So there's a real need for a bulletin board, another bulletin board with information in the town square. As far as the pergola, it seems to me that I've seen it down there when they were measuring it, and it seemed it was like it was all made, and basically all they need to do is get some footing and footings and get it in there. Ron Perry's back from his vacation, so that should happen pretty quickly. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, since I usually don't come to these things, I guess I'll make my presence known. Amazon, Amazon, Amazon. We have so many talented people here in Blue Lake, and Humboldt, the most artists per capita. And I would suggest, especially since it's been moved out to 2027, to take advantage of that and to truly make it a community offering. In fact, my daughter just passed her welding certificate, and there's a welder right down the road, and many, many people that just might want to make it a Blue Lake experience. And that's all I got to say.
Last call for public comment. Julie, go ahead.
Yep. Can I do a mic test again?
You're good.
Sweet. Thank you, Emily, for following up with funding and making sure we're spending it, because here's the deal. If we don't use it in a certain amount of time, it disappears. I'm just curious if I could have one clarifying question just real quick. That funding that's remaining specific to the project that we're talking about with the kiosk, the mosaic, and the bulletin board?
It's specific to Town Square, if that's what you're asking.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay, so I have to agree that a bulletin board's great. Let's just not put stuff on there that's derogatory, like the Rancherias Mexico or whatever that stuff is. Like, that's inappropriate. I think if we have another bulletin board, like Lynn was saying, like we could just have some stuff in there that just has its own little place that never moves, for resources for emergency response, resources for community centers, stuff like that. And the children at the school, why don't we still do a bulletin board and then just do a simple like picture frame around that bulletin board with some simple mosaic, so it's very like pleasing to the eye, let the kids get involved. But here's the biggest eyesore of town hall, or the square, is the backdrop. When we originally were talking about town square, we always knew that backdrop of the neighboring property was kind of a little eyesore, and there's really been no remediation in that direction, which could just be investing in some plants that grow easily and are manageable, and just add a little bit more greenery in the background there. I think would really amplify the atmosphere of town square, and also include the children with a little art project and get us a bulletin board. Those would be my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last call for comment on this item before we bring it back to council.
I like the children idea.
Thanks for considerations.
I know this isn't exactly what we're here to talk about tonight, but I'm also in favor of seeing if we can find a way to do a permanent bathroom instead of the. And I also wanted to mention that the bulletin board, and there may, I suppose, if we put the Prop 68 sign on the smaller part of the wall, there would be potentially room for two bulletin boards, one that could be a public access one, and one that would be for city notices. Because since the post office is locking the doors, I think that people don't have nearly the access that they used to have to the city notices that happen in the locked bulletin board in the post office. So I just want to suggest that potentially we have one bulletin board that's locked for city use only, and then maybe have room for a separate one for public access.
Any other additional questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. Do we wish to entertain a motion?
I would move that we authorize staff to proceed with coordinated logistics and installation of Town Square restroom kiosk additions as presented.
We have a motion made by Connie. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Louis Luzo. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. All right, moving on to item number 8. City Manager Short, would you fill those in?
I think Justin's probably gonna provide most of the information,
Okay.
but the Annie and Mary Day has come forward as a special event and possible rental of the facilities, Emily put together an estimate for that was approximately $1,400, and they would look to approach council about waiving all or part of it.
Who would like to come forward first to present for group?
My name is Justin, I'm president of the Chamber of Commerce for Blue Lake. So for a very long time, as far as I'm aware, this has been a collaborative effort between the city and the Chamber of Commerce. Even if you look at today's advertisements for your car show, it includes at least the mention of our parade, Anne Day Parade. If you listen to the radio spots that we're putting up, we're advertising Anne Day with the car show. So it's being advertised as a collaborative effort. I understand prices are going up. Prices have gone up for us too. We're also seeing a slower influx of vendors than we have in previous years. Everyone's tightening their belts, and I understand everyone is kind of in a bad situation right now. Our cost of doing music has gone up. Our cost of insurance, everything has gone up. So I understand we're all in the same boat of we're all dealing with higher prices. Everyone is. So I don't mind at least paying some, but to pay all of it, frankly, it could mean us not doing the event next year. I'll go ahead and throw out some numbers. Last year, we cleared Annie Mary Day by about $1,600. If we paid $1,400 and our music gone up $200. So we would literally, if we paid the full price for this, as said, and that's not even including staff time. If we were to pay that and then staff time, we would literally be in the red to do this event. If we were to pay the full fee. I know we were looking at doing a MOU, but we were waiting to see what your how much you guys wanted to charge, and you guys were still dealing with that, so we weren't sure where we were going to be. And at this point, it was too late to do an MOU. Now, I want to do this as a stopgap measure. Next year, we'll work on an MOU to figure out something, something along the lines. What you guys agree? Hopefully, you guys agree to some or all. I mean, I understand you can't do all. I mean, let's face it. Who wouldn't want you guys to forgive all? But I understand if you can't. And whatever you guys decide, we'll try to do an MOU accordingly to make it fair for everyone. And I mean, we've been advertising our event on the radio for quite a while now at our expense. But I mean, even if you look at what's on social media, when you see the mention of the car show from city staff, it includes a Mary Day Parade. So we are definitely, it's definitely a collaborative effort. So I would hope you guys could consider that when you consider how much you charge. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
I'm curious about planning, how you guys do that, do you have open meetings where you invite the public to come and help with the planning and help with putting it on, and how does that work?
We do, we have public meetings so we keep bouncing around because we keep running into people having meetings at the same time as we are. Currently it's the third Thursday. Yeah, we welcome public to come in and assist us in any way that they can do. Let's face it, the spirit of volunteerism has gone way down, as evidenced by the little park event that you guys had over here. To help clean up the children's park. 2 people showed up beside myself from the public. Even the bike park event, there was 12 people showed up. It's finding people who want to volunteer their time is just not an easy thing to do nowadays. It's doesn't seem to be the cool thing to do anymore, unfortunately. I wish it did. I wish it were.
Well, I think we have a really good community spirit in Blue Lake, and a lot of people are willing to volunteer, but I think sometimes it's a matter of communication. In terms of making clear when the meetings and coordination can happen. So
If anyone would like to volunteer their time, all they have to do is email us and sunnybluelake@gmail.com. And I would be more than happy to coordinate their donation of their time.
I had a question about what, so this would be for Emily and Jenny, what would be for the cost? What is it gonna cost the city for us? What's our staff time and cost for this? What would
I'd
be?
like Emily to answer, she's done the estimate.
Okay,
Yeah, so I was asked about the chamber as if they, were anybody coming in to do this level of festival based on the vendors and everything we scheduled and approved back in May or June. And our staff time isn't included in this. I told Justin if they're able to have people change the trash at the park, help clean the restrooms and stuff, that takes a big brunt off of our Parks and Rec staff. To where we don't have to, employ people to go and monitor those things throughout the day. And it is a pretty big job. I'd say 1 to 2 people on trash just as their job and a single person on both bathrooms. So 3 staff at the park total generally handles everything and prevents any overflow. And I think that would be fair. I would say this has been a collaborative effort in the past, a bit of the yin to the yang. However, our staff is shrunken quite a bit. And if we need to use them, I think it's fair to pay.
yeah, I'm just wondering what some possible options might be to collaborate and. Yeah, that's a tough one. Appreciate your request.
Any other questions? So I know originally Blue Lake Commons was like part of the city and now it's part of the chamber. So Justin, at this point, like I can't even communicate with people on Blue Lake happenings. I'm like blocked or whatever. So I think it's a little weird that the mayor like can get on like happening. No, I can't even post. I'm not being approved, so yeah, that's kind of concerning.
I will do that.
That'd be great, because like originally, like, it was run by 2 city staff members,
Right.
and then it got transferred somehow over to you guys. And now the mayor can't even post when, like, we had that fire for that family. I tried posting on there to like help raise funds, and then nothing ever happened. I tried a couple times, so I just want to let you know about that.
I will look into that.
Great. Any other questions?
So I guess to be clear, the 1,400 is what our normal rental fees would be for the facilities that are being used on that day. Is that correct?
Yeah, including all the processing and the permit fees, all of the food truck fees of the food truck, 4 of them estimated, and concession vendors, 4 food tent vendors.
Okay.
And crop vendors, all equate to that 1,400.
Okay. And then your estimate of the additional fees that are the cost recovery, staff time. And you said that 1,400 does not include staff time, but it must include some. Done?
So it breaks down, it breaks down into $885 for facility rental. That's crash hall restrooms and the park full rental option for a full day. Special event fees would be processing and the application fees, including the amplified music and the alcohol sold. That equals $255. Vendor and concessionaire would be the food vendors, both food trucks and in tents, 4 of each. And craft vendors as a whole charge, that equals 160. And then they'd ask to have me quote the ice machine added on, which would be $100 for a single day. In total, that equates to that 1,400.
And your total, or your estimated total for the staff that would be needed in addition to that?
That'd be around, I'd say $18 an hour for 3 staff members for a full day.
We charge that with food and drink.
Yeah, fully burdened. There you go.
Some of it depends on what staff's out there. 'Cause it's specific to, like, if it's Emily, she's quite a bit more expensive than, you know, one of our special
Right.
recreation specialist ones.
Any other comments from Sheldon? Yes, go ahead.
Emily, I hobbled all the way up here with a bad knee. You can come up here next time and speak of Mike. Anyway, I can understand, and it was talked about this as a partnership and we're splitting the thing. But it sounds like we're not splitting our loss. And so the most equitable thing, I don't know what your total is. We had 1,400 and I hear some labor and stuff. And so, I recommend that whatever that total comes to, at least for this year, that you go ahead and have them pay up to half of what that total comes to as far as the fees go. That would be splitting it, working collaboratively together. That gives everybody a year, minimizing the city's loss because we're in a negative position just as everybody else is. And times may be changing. We may not be able to have some of these really neat things out here if people aren't willing to donate their time and things. But I think that would be a split the baby in half and not everybody's totally happy. But I think that's a reasonable kind of a split the difference on this thing. I definitely would not recommend waiving the full amount because that puts money in someone else's pocket. Technically, it's close to what you consider a gift of public funds when you start doing things of that for organizations that aren't directly part of the city. So I caution you on that kind of thing. It does set precedents as far as other people goes. It may be kind of a little bit of a weaning from a need for this particular thing. Maybe there's other ways we can work together to generate more money at this thing. Last year we had no raffle. And my understanding that was a major generating thing. And so I don't know if the chamber has already started collecting items, getting donations from people to engage in the raffle. And of course that can be a couple $1,000 easily that would be going into their pocket to make up for the amount they pay you. I think a little due diligence is owed in that particular department. They come up to me.
Great, thank you. Any other public comment? Julie, Christie, go ahead.
Thank you guys for allowing Zoom and making it work good enough you can hear me with my crappy headphones and my really bad service. Big lover of Annie and Mary Day, rode in the parade since I was like 10 and helped out with pony rides and petting zoos many years, donated all that money back to Parks and Rec and the arena. Just this year, unfortunately, Elise, you were the only one that reached out to me for helping out and asking me if I'd be wanting to do a petting zoo. And I unfortunately had to decline because they moved up Ferndale Fair a week this year. So Annie and Mary Day actually falls on the day we get to go set up. And that's really unfortunate. But I think in the meantime, there's lots of revenue generating things that we could work on that could make some money during that time while Annie and Mary Days is happening. Like as simple as like some chicken poop bingo. Like if you guys haven't looked into chicken poop bingo, it's something fun, 50-50 raffle, something easy. I don't know what's going on down at the arena, but you could have some fun family oriented relay races like we do up at Orc Rodeo with like water balloon toss, the tug of war. You know, there's lots of fun things to keep people involved today, scavenger hunt. And maybe for the chamber, you know, I think it's appropriate if the city used to run this, they weren't paying for a use permit to do it. That we do move forward with, uh, giving them this pro bono for sure. However, just like, Bettina does with the medieval festival, uh, make your money, and then if you've got something to kick back, of course you need your startup fund for the next year. Now you guys know, okay, dude, we need this revenue. Um, Anything that's left over is a nonprofit, ideally. You maybe kick it back to the city. And as we're moving towards Annie and Mary Day, since I'm one of those people that can't be there yet again, which breaks my heart, if we need any cleanup days or volunteer days and stuff like that as we're moving forward, like really involve everybody. I don't like this like click thing where only certain people are involved with it, and then it's just awkward and weird. Stuff dies when that stuff starts happening. So we've really got to just like take advantage of anybody that wants to help, step up and make those opportunities available and let
Julie?
people know what needs done. Yep, my donkey's hollering too. He knows. Bye.
Just so everyone's aware, we are at 16 minutes on the topic. Want to let you know. Any other public comment? Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Cheris Bowman and I'm one of the directors on the Chamber of Commerce. Just to let you guys know, we're really kind of reorganizing ourselves. The Chamber is really trying to reimagine ourselves. This is our only fundraiser for the year. This is what keeps the Chamber functioning. And we are trying to really get a consortium of our businesses and bring some energy to Blue Lake. And this event is the one thing that we do. There are a lot of things that we need to improve on for next year. We need to add some sponsors. I know that the Nestler Car Show has raised about $10,000 in sponsorship. Something is, we're new members. We need to look at that. There are some fundraising ideas we can do, but we don't want to have this event be something that puts us in the red, or Annie and Mary Days, which has been going on for decades and has been sponsored by the Chamber, and in the past has historically been sponsored by the city in not charging us a fee, that this event kind of dies away. Communities are about people joining together. Annie and Mary Day is one of the best days we have here. Typically, hundreds of people come, they enjoy our city, everyone wants to live in sunny Blue Lake, and Annie and Mary Day is a continuation of heritage in this community, and I just would love to see it embraced and not smothered. The new fees are cost prohibitive, so we're just coming to you to ask, if we can pay staff, we can also have volunteers. We don't have to impede on staff so much, and we're working on that. But I ask for your support in the continuation of this historical event.
All right, any more public comment? Oh, go ahead.
Colin Vance, I'm on the Chamber as well. Yeah, so I mean, Buddy Brown, Eric Patrick has moved them because of the cost pro. There's a pivoting nature of what it's going to cost them. So, online with what Charis was just saying, it's like, let's keep it here. It's going to go. Like, it's going to go away. So yeah, I would push for the pro bono, and if no pro bono, something along the lines of what Ken said. I liked his split down the middle. Maybe not the baby, but that's all I think. Thank you.
Bring it back out. Well, I just want to say, I think Buddy Brown thing is good thing that happened, because then it helps support Del Arte. The city too got a little money, but Del Arte got a little money as well, so it's a win-win. Any other questions about this? Comment?
I do have a question for the chamber. If, when I was at attended one of the meetings, chamber, there was a motion to raise the fees on your vendors. What was the change that you made to your vendor?
We went from 50 to 60 on regular, and then from 75 to 85 on food vendors.
I saw somebody on social media asking about insurance. And I recall years ago, vendors were not required to carry their own insurance. Is that something that's new?
To my knowledge, it was what they were wanting to do required an insurance. Like if you're simply selling an item, no. If you are selling food, obviously you have to carry all kinds of permits and stuff. But they were wanting to do if I understand the one you're talking about, was they were looking for donations towards sending their kids to baseball or something along those lines. Far as I was told, that required some kind of insurance of some kind.
Yeah, I looked at your website and I noticed that your vendor application stipulates that every vendor has to have insurance. And I just noticed that one social media post saying that it was going to cost them $170 to vend at the event. By the time they dealt with insurance, various things. So I thought that was, I mean, you mentioned you don't have as many vendors as you typically expect. So I wonder if the insurance piece is part of that issue.
Could be.
I also noticed on your website that it says that your meetings are happening on the second Monday of every month.
We'll get that edited.
And I think also in the spirit of collaboration and inviting members of the public to be part of this event and to help with it, it would really be helpful if your website said who you are, who your officers are, and your board members, so that when folks are out and about and they see one of you guys and they want to say, hey, what can I do to help? They know who to look for. Right now, there's no individuals identified as members of the chamber at all.
That is also a fair observation, and we just recently got control over our website to where we can actually edit it and do what we need to. It's in the process. It's just, as you know, with even non-government things, anytime you're trying to do something, there's procedures, and sometimes it just takes longer than you really want it to. I would love to just say, do this, and it happened, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I do have some comments. We're getting pretty far off topic here. Getting back to the topic on the request for a fee reduction request. We've also seen similar from their buddy Brown Blues Festival, and I think essentially with Canada Fest too. And I just want to remind the public and share again with the other council members that we kind of put the Parks and Rec director to task with reviewing this fee schedule and, trying to get it to where at least it is maybe a break even, or at least it is fairly priced. And I believe that we got as close as we could at this time. I think it's surprising to see this come forward again. But I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask, and who knows how the council will vote on this. But my viewpoint is this, that the facilities already cost us by way of maintenance, utilities, even the staff time to take care of those. We really, in my view, no more position to solve the problem that the chamber has on its expense. The chamber can look again at the fees it has, or sponsorships, or donations. But I think what keeps happening is these organizations look to the city to solve the problem, but the city isn't really creating the problem. The city is trying to look out for, I guess, like its minimum needs here. And it does seem like the most magical thing to just have that evaporate, because the city could say, fees go away, but the expense doesn't go away. And just as being part of the budget ad hoc,
the largest portion of pie goes to recreation staff and our facilities. It's huge, and that's out of the general fund. Our general fund is also where we're getting hammered with the seventh housing element on those planning fees. We're getting hammered by the cost of insurance. We're getting hammered by staff costs, and that's not a criticism of the staff whatsoever. These are real costs that we cannot escape. So each time an organization is coming and asking us, hey, please lower your fees. My response is, I wish that we could. I wish we could do it for free. But we have already evaluated this ad nauseum, ad infinitum, and it keeps coming to, in my view, the conclusion that we are taking from the general fund. We are supporting other organizations and using public funds to do that. And we're asking that the organizations be more creative in how you're able to solve that problem. The city, in my view, as we struggle to even get a balanced budget, we're in trouble. And it's not a time where we can have other people see this as the life raft to solve their issues. Everybody is feeling this pain. So the last that I have is, and this is kind of a side note, it keeps coming up about MOUs. I'm concerned that MOUs seem to be the solution to avoid fees. So I don't know what the philosophy is, and maybe that's a topic for another time. I wish I could say something different than I have, but that's the harsh reality as I see.
Any other comments from council?
What is an MOU, please?
Memorandum of Understanding.
Gotcha.
Memorandum
Understand.
of
Thank you.
Understanding, yeah.
All right.
Fine for that problem.
This is counting.
Yeah, we're on the public session.
I mean, I acknowledge what you're saying. I understand exactly where you're coming from, and yes, we've all been sitting here feeling this pain. When it comes to Annie and Mary Day, I feel a little bit more of a commitment to try to make this work. Because it is Blue Lake. And so I feel like there must be something that we can do to help alleviate some of this pain. It's not the CannaFest. It's not, it's Blue Lake. And this is an event that all my kids have gone to for 40 years and for however long it's been going. Maybe not 40, but
Since 1967.
there you go. 40, all the kids, 44 years. So all four of them. So I would like to make something work. I would like to have, I don't know, I can give up my stipend for the year and maybe make a dent. I don't know. I really am committed to doing this. I do understand where you're coming from. I don't mean to dismiss what you just said. You're absolutely right. Mayor Starling.
And just to your point, thank you for that, because it is part of our identity. Sorry.
You're good. Any final comment?
Well, I would just say that it is a Blue Lake event. And I am not opposed to the city doing some sort of a sponsorship or collaboration. I think though, when we say collaboration, it needs to stretch beyond the money. It has to be communication. It has to be a welcoming opportunity for people to participate. And I feel like that has not gone on to this point. There are a number of people that are leading the event, and it's not open to everybody. So if the chamber wants the city to be involved and to help with the funding, then they have to really open the doors and open their arms and welcome everybody to participate.
Can you just give a couple examples of like ways that we
You
should?
can't. No. Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Claire, anything?
I have a question for Emily. So Emily, in the past, the city has not charged this. Is that how it's been? Yeah.
Please, yes.
That's correct. With the different city manager that we had previously, we were not charging the chamber.
And then, and has there always, throughout the years, I don't know if anyone knows the answer to this, I know there were times when the chamber wasn't active so much. How did that affect this, do you know, the experience on that?
I went back to look at 2021, and then it wasn't, it was written out, but it said wait. For the event, the city manager to approve.
Do you know historically if there was a time when we didn't happen with chamber?
I don't, but I do have all the handwritten chamber minutes that go back into like the 60s and 70s, all filed in chronological order. So if people are ever interested to look at them, I would love to share them. Learn some of that history.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Alan? You know, for me at this point, like we are making up for bad decisions in the past, trying to stabilize everything. We're still waiting for our audit to come in. We're not in a good spot. So we charge Arcata. No, I think we're ready to revoke. Anyone wish to entertain a motion?
I would like to move that we waive half the fee,
We have a
making it $700.
motion by Louis Luso. Do we have a second? Hearing that.
I would offer a friendly amendment to that, and that would be that we look, I mean, I think there's a few fees that Emily has in there that potentially we could carve off, like the amplified music fee potentially. I don't know if chamber really wants the whole ice machine, maybe that could be carved off. You know, there might be a few things that we could carve off to get that down, but I think again that the collaboration between the folks at the chamber and city staff to get that maybe to a number that's a little more manageable. You know, maybe again a little brainstorming. It's been suggested that, you know, you ask for $1 admission fee to anything Berry Day.
You just make the motion.
Okay, so my amendment would be to look a little harder, to work together and maybe come back at our next meeting. Because maybe we just don't have the information right now. That's an
Is
option.
that a friendly amendment that you're willing to accept? Or is that, it was,
Sure,
That's
I mean,
a mess. I
it
just think
makes
that's
it not, you know, die on the floor, absolutely, I still wanna have a conversation about it, but maybe we can, you know, sponsor a table, we'll be tabling the event.
Okay.
Maybe,
we have a mo, if you're willing to
City
accept,
council.
you're willing to accept the friendly motion to look into what we can cut.
About,
Why don't you just make a new motion?
how about, I move that we create an ad hoc committee of Michelle and myself. And we work with Emily and the chamber to see what we can do.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
okay. I don't even know if we need it.
You do.
But, okay.
We have a motion and a second to form an ad hoc to look at what we can cut. We have all those in favor to say aye.
I,
That doesn't pass. Okay. We have any other motions we'd like to entertain? Any other motion?
okay. Oh, looks like a fundraiser is in your future.
I make a motion that we cut the fee for the amplified music.
Which was what?
A minimal amount, $50.
I thought it was more.
Don't have a second, all right. Well, what do you guys want to do? Figure it out. Do we want to entertain that? Or do we wish to say no?
For me, I have to stand with what I said and where we've been with County Fest and with the Bunny Blues Festival, even absolutely respecting how this is so integral to Blue Lake.
Do you want to just make a motion?
I don't know that we need to make a motion to not pass it. Just, move on to another agenda.
Okay, so. So we do not need a motion to say no? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, if you don't motion to say no, it comes up again at your next meeting. Don't be surprised.
Okay.
Perhaps the communication between the two establishments will be established by them the next meeting, perhaps. I hear that now it's in
Thank you.
their own hands.
All right, so are we ready to move on? Can I at least get confirmation from us that we're ready to move on?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay, moving on to the next item. Item number 9.
Thing
As
is 20 to 8.
Yep.
You want, this is a long item, or I can do a very abbreviated version of it.
Abbreviated.
Okay.
Because we already went through, I mean, you kind of already, well,
You've never.
we were supposed to review it
You've had it.
back in summer.
So, I will go ahead and share my screen so I can just walk you through a few things. There's a few things I want you to understand about this before you take action on it. Oh, I do have permission. Beautiful. Okay, so the part that you are adopting is an exhibit to a resolution. This entire document, both volume 1 and volume 2, has already been adopted by the Board of Supervisors for Humboldt County. It is the countywide risk management hazard mitigation plan. What you guys are doing is just adopting the section that was the annex for the city of Blue Lake. One of the things that adopting this does allow you to do, though, is all of the mitigations that are listed in here as things that the city should be working towards, those become available for funding through the hazard mitigation program. And that is the same program that we got the funding for the water tank through. So what they do when they set these up is they talk about vulnerabilities first. So this entire first section of 5.22 are the vulnerabilities that are identified. And dam failure because we're on the river, drought, obviously for everybody, earthquakes. Flooding is one of the ones that we can do some things about. And so it's one of the ones I have as part of the highlighted portion of this presentation. Landslides, wildfire, wind, like those are things you prepare for. And you can do some mitigation for wildfire by removing vegetation and encouraging people to do that at their homes. But ultimately, you don't have a lot to say over the weather or the wind. And so when you get down into the next section, it talks about some of the development changes that have happened in this city since the last time one of these was produced, which was 4 years ago. And so the main thing that they call out in here is this increased vulnerability in the Powers Creek district. And as you guys are well aware, in the last few years, we've seen levels of flooding that haven't been seen in this city. And so this is very much so accurate in what they have in this section. They've got it for both residential, commercial, and industrial. We are looking at doing all of those types of developments within the Powers Creek district, immediately adjacent to Powers Creek itself. They go through in section 5.3 and they look at what is the city's capabilities of dealing with this. They go through all of the planning and regulatory things that we have in place, from the general plan to recovery plans. You'll notice that they have dates in here about when they were last updated and when they should be updated again. Almost everything in this city needs to be updated. I mean, all zero. They go from a decade to 3 decades old. It really all needs to be looked at. We do not have a comprehensive capital improvement plan. We have really focused on the water and sewer infrastructure only, but everything else has not been incorporated into a full-blown plan. Community wildfire protection plan, that needs to be updated as well. At least that's only from 7 years ago. Some of these things we just need to decide that we're going to spend some time and effort and money and trying to evaluate and then create the plans to have them in place. Our land use plan gets updated fairly often. It's not necessarily comprehensively been updated, and that's part of what's coming out in the 7th cycle of the housing element. We need an emergency operations plan, and not a 3-inch binder that has a bajillion things that the county would come up with that really is about checking boxes, but something that people on the ground are gonna use. And this is one of my highest priorities over the next 6 months, is to go through and really create that binder that's, you know, your half-inch binder. It's got all the things you need to know. And create some electronic versions of them and places to store those electronic versions if the binders are not available. This is one of the things that I'd like to work with the Public Safety Commission once we get to the point where I have a first draft to have their input on. The stormwater management plan, they don't really have a full-blown stormwater management plan. And I'm going to show you a picture of the most recent map that I could find. This is what we have. Everything else is from 1980. This was done in 2021, and they went out and they did a GIS survey of each one of these points that you see on here. You can see they mapped the different creeks. They mapped how Railroad Creek connects to Powers Creek here. Everybody knows that this culvert, this whole section of the road, there are floods and you can't get across at all. But this is all we have. And there's nothing outside of the city boundaries that's been looked at all. And so things like, how does Highway 299 impact the diversion of water from off of the hill and then bring it down the road and put it into creeks that wasn't previously a part of? None of that's been looked at in this yet. And I think it really is going to be critical to add some additional information outside of this little tiny boundary of we are the city of Blue Lake and really look more watershed wide. Where's the water coming from? And are there diversions that are causing the increases that we're seeing? So a transportation plan, we do this on a pretty regular basis. We coordinate with Humboldt County Association of Governments. We've never gone down into like every single intersection. We've got a regional surface transportation plan that was just approved a couple of years ago that meets this requirement. And we don't have a plan for if there's substantial damage, what are we going to do? Debris management. We don't have a plan for that. The ongoing debris is managed by our Public Works Department. I'm shocked at the volume of vegetation and garbage that is collected in our city streets, where either they're cutting it back or people cut it back and leave it and they end up coming and getting it because it's in the middle of the road. Not that I encourage anybody to do that, but that is what goes on. They went through and they looked at all of our regulations and ordinances. You'll see that, is it adequately administered? Yes. Do we have it? Yes. So we're in good shape in those regards. Administrative and technical capabilities. So in this, they were looking at the actual, like, how much staff do you have dedicated to this? And you can see one of the things I've talked to you about before is the need to get a GIS system for our city that we run ourselves, not where we have to ask SHN to produce a map, but where we can really bring it up in an emergency and actually lay all the layers on top of each other and make some decisions at the time. You can see that most of these are not vacant, but they also, many of these are all the city manager. And so that's why in some of these sections, they say, is staffing adequate? And the answer is no. You can't have one person that's doing 8 things in an emergency. We have minimal hours that are available for our city engineer and our community planner, which is both fulfilled right now by SHN. There just isn't enough. We don't have enough funds to be able to adequately really administer these things. So down in technical capabilities, there's a whole list of things that the city would benefit from. And I read through it and I thought, absolutely. I mean, it would be great to have all of these things. And with time, hopefully we can get there. I would like to see the city pursue a grant that's specific to trying to actually create some of these plans and not just doing the projects on the ground, but ask for hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to try to put a bunch of these things into a single RFP and have somebody work with the city to get those things in place all at one time. Our financial capabilities. So this is where, the rubber meets the road. They basically say in here, can we afford to do it? And most of the answers are, you have to apply for funds from other agencies. And they have a list of a lot of the different agencies that are available and have we used them in the past. The flood mitigation assistance, that was the application that you guys recently had to withdraw because of the change in ownership of the property and some of the things that had happened down there. But we still have this grant for the replacement of the water tank. And we have done some stuff with CDBG before. I've put some feelers out to see if there's any way that we can use any of our federal CDBG funds to do some of these things, since it's one of the places that might be eligible. So I don't want to go through all of these. There is a bunch of these about federal programs. There's this general catch-all for federally funded programs for creek restoration. And you guys are aware that we've been coordinating with the Ottawa Watershed Council to do some of those applications and to support them in those applications to try to get some of the mitigations in Powers Creek completed as soon as possible. Did you have a question, John?
Do we have any progress on that, or is that a different topic we can discuss that?
No, I emailed Dave and I got a response from him this afternoon, and he basically gave me a summary of where they're at on each one and the coordination he's been doing with Fish and Wildlife. And one of the grants that they applied for, they haven't yet been told no on. The other one that was through the Department of Water Resources, they did say no because the amount of it was too much that they were asking for. And so they're looking at trying to break one of the phases into two pieces. It's the one that has the huge amount of gravel that needs to be taken out. And the cost of that is just astonishing. And so they're trying to figure out some way to either remove that big bend that they have in there, or a way to be able to break it into two pieces so that it comes below the maximum. And if you guys want, we could bring something over to you in the future to kind of go over that. Education and outreach opportunities. You can see we really don't use most of these things. They're mostly notes. We do have a yearly safety fair that the Public Safety Commission puts on, and so we got credit for that in here. We do use the local news a little bit, but a lot of this stuff, we just don't have a lot of outreach or education that goes with hazards. So then they start talking about opportunities to be better, right? We want to improve our capabilities. And so they went through all of the different opportunities to expand or improve. I'm not going to go through all these. I'm going to go down specifically to the section where they list what they want the city to focus on. They talk about flood insurance a lot. So they have a list here in 5.51 of previous mitigation actions, and they talk about what efforts we've made on each one of those. And then when you get down here into this updated mitigations action, this is the table we're going to be able to fund projects off of. And so I want to kind of focus on some of the things that are on here. Replacement of the water delivery systems that have earthquake likely is one of the things that is eligible. And so both of our tanks would theoretically fall in that category. They definitely do not have a seismic connection between the foundation and the sides of the tank. A sloshing wave in there would likely break the tanks if the earthquake was big enough. And so that's one of the things I would like to see us go forward on. They would like to see more solar and battery storage installation at the wastewater treatment plant. You guys know that we have solar there, but we don't have the battery there to be able to store it or use it when it's dark. And so that's one of the things that we could look at increasing. But this idea of acquiring flood prone property is something I know I've talked to some different people in the community and different council people with over time. And I think there's some potential that we could talk to some people that own property along Powers Creek, because we can want to do all the projects that we want to do, but if we don't own the property the project's on, then we have to get a right of entry. And that can be a really difficult thing with a property owner that's not supportive of you going in there and regrading the creek on their property and or changing the alignment of the creek and affecting the number of square feet or acres that's developable. And so this is one of the things that we could move forward with on. There's a couple properties that could fall into that category. Installation of generators at the wastewater treatment plant has been on our list for a very long time, and there's been some discussion recently with the Rancheria because they have some very big, very nice generators there, and they also have a lot of battery storage. And with the relationship we have with them, they're willing to consider allowing them to be our emergency backup, so that we don't have to actually install a generator, but we would switch over to their system in an emergency. And I know one of the ones that I get a lot of comments on, and I talk to people a lot, is Powers Creek. And what can we do between Railroad and the outfall of Powers Creek to try to eliminate the flooding that goes on from there, that direction on Broderick and down Railroad and South Railroad and Charton. And, the water is pretty extensive when it truly floods. And so I think of all the things that we want to put our effort into, this is likely one of the very highest, is to try to figure out some way to either It's difficult. I mean, this is a creek that's designated in such a way that the California Department of Fish and Wildlife would have to approve anything that we did in there as a city. And I know volunteers get away with going out and doing a little bit more than, you know, city staff could or a contractor could from the city. When I spoke with Cal Fire about the possibility of them coming out and removing vegetation in that area, they were like, you have to have a lake and stream bed alteration agreement with CDFW where we can't even talk about this. And so if this is something that the city wants to start investing time and money into, that is likely the first conversation is how do we get that permit in place with the state? What sort of mitigations would they require of us for that? We do own some portions, like one side of the creek in some places we own and the other side we don't. And Mike Foggett is getting me a map that was created as part of their design to show based on property lines where the creek is right now. And of course that does change over time some, but at least then we'd have a really clear understanding of what do we own and what do we not own, and where do we need right of entries. But regardless of who owns the property, it all has to be covered by Fish and Wildlife. So that's both 9 and 10. And you can see the priority's high on those. And so I would love to see us follow through with trying to get some funding for those. Fuel reduction is something that we can pursue, especially if people have specific locations that they think that would be well done. As I looked at the aerial, we don't have huge areas that have lots and lots of vegetation. And there's a very small amount of town that even butts up against land that's timbered land. So a lot of it just would burn down to the river, honestly. And then the levee. And so I've been working with the county on the levee. We have been talking about both long-term maintenance items and then a short-term plan for this summer. And so once I get some actual numbers on the amount the split would be between the county and the city for the maintenance that Hank and I would like to see done, I will bring that back to you guys to review. It's not something we included in the budget because I didn't have any idea how much it was going to be, but it is something that's going to be coming to you. And you know, as some of you were stating, our general fund is negative, and this will make it more negative. But I do think it's really important we do what we can to try to protect the levee. Let's see what else we have here. And crash hall improvements, we can do some work on facilitating it being an emergency shelter. I don't know if you guys are aware, but one of the buildings that the Rancheria just built is specifically set up for this, and it's been wired to be able to allow for any residents of this community to come down there if they have like dialysis machines or anything that's life-threatening during a power outage or an emergency, and they can just shelter there for as long as they need to. And it's all tied into their amazing power system. And so, you know, this would be a backup to that for people that didn't need those specialized services. And more stuff about the water tanks. They're listed in here several times as to why they are a hazard. Obviously, a redwood tank can burn, and so it's not ideal to have them out in timbered land. And we can show that by switching them to metal tanks, they become more fire resilient. And replacing culverts on Powers Creek. So those were the things I wanted to like on my super fast version. I have a much longer version. I could talk about this for a long time. But I wanted you guys to kind of get a feel for the types of projects that are in here. And maybe at some point in the future, after we return this to the county with our resolution, we can sit down and have a community meeting about of all these things, what does council of the community think are the most important? Because unfortunately, there's just only so many hours in a day, and we only have so much staff. And while we don't really like to do them all, we can't. So
you suggest we have some kind of a town hall or something around that?
Yeah.
That's not any questions, comments, or concerns?
That's a lot of.
Sorry, just wait for your. We'll open up public comment. There you go.
I'm wondering, Jenny, when I was reading through this, and the only place, especially in the place where it was saying there's specific vulnerabilities within our community, they have dam failure, the drought, the flooding, wildfire, wind, landslide. And the levee is buried in the dam failure, which really isn't the only reason a levee could fail. And I'm wondering, either from the point of view from Blue Lake or the county or however this works out, what was the reasoning for not? I mean, that's a fairly vulnerable, and it really steps outside of just flooding. in the city of Blue Lake, because that could catastrophic if something happened during a high water mark. And then it's not really talked about, and we do have it listed at the very end, but I'm just curious if you know why there is not a separate place for that.
So this was all prepared for before I was here, and it was a county project. They did solicit for input from each of the annexes, is what they're called in it. And I found a number of correspondence on Mandy's computer where, you know, she was involved in this process, but I can't speak to why they didn't pull it out separately.
And because it seems like even in the area of flood, it at minimum should have been, you know, there. And I think it just kind of, even though it is in the very ending part, I think it kind of minimizes the condition of that, because if you look on our flood maps from FEMA, down at the bottom of it, there's a square, and it says that our levee is not certified, and therefore it doesn't meet the guidelines that it needs to meet. In order for us to even be able to say that it has a certain level of protection. And so throughout this document, we're saying nobody lives in an area that would be a special flood hazard area. And yet there's just kind of a, like, it really doesn't balance itself out between what the FEMA map is saying and then, you know, what our take is. So I guess that's a concern I have with this document moving forward. And I'm guessing that a document like this wouldn't be made again for about another 10 years. And it feels a little bit, I think they do a little more often than that. No. If you want to have a really clear understanding of what that little note in the bottom means, it would be worth having Hank come and explain it, because the way that you make it sound is far more dramatic than it really is what this would be. Because there are certifications that we do have that meet certain requirements and allow for it to be a functional and approved levy. It's just that specific thing on the map means a very specific thing, and it's not as detrimental, I think, as maybe. Well, I guess when I look at the FEMA website and you're looking at what it's required for us to maintain that levy, it is not just kind of going in there and whack. Oh, no, no, it's not. Yeah. And so I think there's an abundant many things about it, the condition of rocks on it, the fact that I've seen squirrels running on it. There are a lot of issues, big trees growing in it, that has never been addressed. This has been pushed off for years and years and years. So I would just, you know, I would really love to see jump into that. I have had a conversation. That's what I'm gonna say.
Michelle.
To Terry's concerns, I would think, I mean, once we move forward with this, I think that their assessment can maybe differ, and when we move forward with our planning and our prioritization of projects for the city, then we can certainly have that discussion and emphasize that a little bit more. That's how I understand it, anyway. But supporting it through making a focus more on the levy, if that's your concern. I don't think that's gonna help. I mean, stop anything from the forward, right? I mean, I don't think we need to do that, right?
I just want to say thank you, especially for scrutinizing flooding from both the kind of macro view of not just the city of Blue Lake, but as you're saying, the whole watershed. That's important. And then within the city, continuing with Ottawa Council. And then concurrently looking at a section and what can we do, and I think that's with the Fish and Wildlife, at least trying to break up some of those areas where it's so congested. Sort of a three-pronged approach that we've got going.
Jenny, so I think obviously the problem last year was the culvert above the freeway there, from my understanding, which is what caused the majority of flooding. So we have a plan to reach out to them, have that clear.
We are, Hank and I are working with Caltrans on trying to get copies of their as-built of what actually happened, because what was built, what was on the plans for construction isn't what was built in the field. And I suspect from what I've heard that a number of under asphalt drains were connected to the culvert itself, because they found them when they did the installation, and so then they said, oh, well, let's just connect them up. But I think what that's done is probably picked up a bunch of under drainage and brought it to a location that it used to just continue on down. That's but like I said, Hank and I are working on trying to get a really clear understanding of what happened at each culverts. And once we have something, we'll reach out to Caltrans and find out. But the culvert is still a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a problem this year.
Right, no, that I agree on.
Yeah.
So just to confirm, if we adopt the resolution right now, are you planning on having the town hall meeting after and it'll amend this resolution?
No,
What's
there's no amending
Okay.
it. Basically, all you're doing is saying that this is complete and you're gonna move forward with funding projects with it. I think what the town hall meeting would focus on is this table 5.52, which is the mitigation actions. I think as a community, we need to look at all these mitigation actions and talk about, as a whole, if we have to prioritize our top 5 and our top 10, what are they? Because they're all important.
Can we have public
I'm
input
gonna
before
use
you do your
Yes,
approval?
any other, go ahead, Mary.
I appreciate, your explanation, because I wasn't sure how much the back has a bearing on, on the funding and what we, the encouragement to get funding for that, and also a look at the flooding in Howard's Creek, because I think that's really important. The flooding,
Yeah.
Well, again, I appreciate what you're working on with Caltrans and the county. But I do recognize as I am one of the people that's underwater and I'm not affected by Powers Creek or the Caltrans diversion. That there may be some other diversions. I've not been able to identify one, but there may be other diversions besides the ones we know about. And so I'm hoping that we might be able to look a little further. I don't know where or how, but trying to identify those things would be, important. Although I don't think the flooding I'm subject to is affecting a whole bunch of people. But if it gets much deeper, it'll affect people. These last 2 floods have been, in that area fairly shallow, but they could be a lot deeper.
Right, open up to public comment. Public, would you like to speak on this item?
So, when you, originally, we're gonna be going over the hazard mitigation plan, that was back in February.
End of March, March 28th.
Right, so I read over it pretty thoroughly back then, but I've been waiting for it to come back up again, and it's here now, and I have not had time to go back over it, but I was dismayed to see in the flood section how many NAs there were, and don't have the staff, and this is not a plan, this hazard mitigation plan, this is it's an outline. The way it reads, it's an outline. There's no teeth in it. There's nothing for a resident to say, oh, this is what's happening. This is how this is getting addressed. There's nothing specific in it to where actually the hazards are occurring. So it's a deeply flawed article that if you guys stamp that, it's like you're not doing anything. I mean, I see that you're talking about, well, this is an outline for us to go and fill in, but it's not a plan. So I just wonder for the residents who are actually experiencing the hazards.
what do we have to work with from this? Because you're here to serve us. And it seems like you're just serving this like, well, we'll just check that off. We've done that for the county or the state. But what actually trickles down to us? Because I'm not seeing anything. Us is just a few people going in the creek. And have you walked down there and seen the condition of the creek at the end? There's 566 feet of vegetation like this. That's why we're flooding. The creek is totally blocked up. Now there's 1 to 3 feet of sediment. I can feel it in my body. I've been in the water so many times. I've been not in the water, in the channel, monitoring it. I have photographs from 2 years ago, every season, in between storms. Every time there's a blockage, the water comes down, it slows down and it dumps sediment. You've got these undulations of sediment piles and then deep pools. And that's just creating more places for the debris to come down and fill in. I mean, you're not talking about anything here when you're talking about a hazard mitigation plan. You're not talking about anything real. I mean, you know what's up with me. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what my relationship as a resident who's been flooded 3 times in 2 years. After 27 years of this never being, I'm not in the FEMA flood zone. I'm sorry, I'm lecturing you right now, but it's just, this is ridiculous. It's absurd. No, God, you guys wake up. I mean, you already know the pressures that are coming down. Yes, 299. The culverts are dumping into the creek right now. That's why the sediment is coming down. There's this immense sheet flow that's coming down the highway and dumping into Powers Creek. Would you like to just have me physically removed?
I mean, I'm not gonna physically leave you, but.
You know, every time you give me 3 minutes, but you give the bike park and all these special interest things, these icings on the cake. Lots of time, but you don't give like basic rights that residents have. You don't give us any time. And instead I have to do what I have to do, which is not what I wanted to do. Yeah.
I can't.
I know.
Thank you.
I know. When is there time?
We can talk after the meeting.
No. You guys, you have not reached out to the residents to find out how this has impacted us. Nothing. Is that in the hazard mitigation?
That's what we're gonna be planning. We're going to be,
What's happening? We're going to be after 2.5 years, you're going to be?
we're gonna be having a community event, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Some people who sit in these chairs wonder why it can be aggravating. This is a foundation, this is a start to work with. Government moves very slow. You don't expect it to happen instantly. It doesn't happen instantly. I started working with Hank Seaman probably 20 years ago on the levee problem down here. I put the supervisors on notice that if we lose the city of Blue Lake, which is still a possibility in its entirety or up to this level, that they would be personally responsible because that levee is the county's responsibility from here on up. And it's actually their responsibility for majority down. Just to let you know, the reason that levee is not certified is because the power of the beast ceased to certify levees. The Army Corps said they're not certified levees because they haven't certified, and then they get sued. So you won't get the levee certified, but you can get it majorly improved. This particular levee lacks, it's an earthen levee. It lacks the geotechnical clock. It lacks correct armoring that you would expect of a levee. And its biggest flaw is, anybody will tell you deals with levees, and I did a lot of research on this at the time, is that it has trees in there, that if these trees are uprooted, it takes the levee with it. It is the county's responsibility, and then possibly even down a portion of it, the county's, but the cities to keep those trees out of it. There should be nothing in there any bigger than 1 inch at any time. The brush should be gone because, like I say, those willow trees and things will take the levee with it. So you do have a major danger there. And I think it's the largest one the city faces and ongoing. And I think it was taken care of. The same situation was up in Orc, but they had squeaky wheels up there. They had a supervisor and people that were willing to go to the mat. So that's what you need to do, work with Hank. If we had a supervisor that you could work with, you could try and have Mike Wilson try and put some leverage out to do what we need, working with the county as a partnership. And of course, we have the tribe. It's the other partner we have. And I think if you partner with the tribe and put the snooze to working well with Hank, But you're also gonna need some, of this squeaky wheel going on to get it fixed, so. And it is, a major part of it is the county's responsibility.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Thank you. It's my first time at a council meeting. My name is Christine Davis. I live on Chardon and Broderick on the corner. My husband and I moved here in 2020. I'm also a regional manager at California Trout in Arcata. What I've noticed when living in the city is my favorite place I've ever lived. And there's some concerns with the location we live that we've experienced extreme flooding. And so I'm really glad to see Jenny bring up the points 9 and 10 on the hazard mitigation plan to focus on those. And I also agree with my neighbor Karina that, the first thing I noticed was like, that's just kind of a bullet point, and I hope that gets expanded. And I hope that we're working with appropriate groups or people, even if it's a community group, to define what those actions will be, to actually change, maybe look at what the history of that has changed the morphology of the creek, making water come into the road and stand there. And, this water came all the way up to our front door. It's really scary. We have a big yard. We didn't have enough people power to really put up enough sandbags, but we tried, and our neighbors all really sweet. It's just really concerning to see that. And as someone who manages big restoration projects, I manage the Campbell Island Estuary Restoration Project. We acquired landowners' property that was actually being flooded by sea level inundation and culvert failure. Just acquiring flooded properties is not a solution to the impacts that are happening on residents that don't want to just pick up and move. So that seems problematic to me. I understand acquiring properties if you're going to change it into a wildlife area or better habitat for the fish, but that would require actually excavating that sediment and sand that since just 2020, I've seen it come up to almost the base of Powers Creek Bridge, and that's shocking. So I really can see where there's just nowhere for that water to go except for up and over that little lip. Maybe if the lip on the creek was raised and the creek could be dredged. I work with CDFW all the time to get the LSAs, the land stream bed permits, and I know they're really amenable and pretty easy to work with if you have a good reason. So I just encourage you to not think of permitting as a roadblock, but as a pathway forward. And a way to actually get things done. And you do have people in your community like me who are willing to help define those pathways. I can't officially work on behalf of Cal Trout, because I'm working on other projects. This isn't my region, but as a neighbor and someone who really cares about fish habitat and people's property not getting totally ruined for things that could have been avoided, I'd like to just say I'm willing to help. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional public comment?
My name is Ben Graham, a longtime Blue Ridge Community Emergency Preparedness volunteer. I'm a member of the CERT, the Public Safety Commission, and a pod coordinator for Blue Ridge Community Prepared Neighborhood Pods. I'm honored to address the hazard mitigation plan section 5.3.4 education and outreach, and to note that Blue Ridge is exceptionally strong in this area in 4 particular ways. We have a CERT. We have regular educational events. We have a Blue Ridge specific emergency handout for the public, and we have our prepared neighborhoods. So the CERT is sponsored by your council. It was started in 2012 by a council member. Then 3 council members were trained to be for CERT, including the mayor. Right now, 2 members are trained in CERT. We have Terry and we have Kat, and Kat is actually a member of the CERT team. The CERT team also provides provide education to the community, and we are disaster service workers. We're sworn ahead of time to prepare for emergencies. And we also put together a specific Blue Ridge, be prepared for power outages and other emergencies. And so this is given to the community and tells them what to do to prepare for emergencies and then what they can do during an emergency. If their phones charged, to get food, to get water. So this is a very specific thing that's been around in the town for a number of years. They also mentioned the safety fair. I just wanted to say the safety fair is again this year on September 12th. It's going to be here in the parking lot. But I especially want to mention the Blue Ridge a unique grassroots volunteer program on prepared neighborhood pods. Because nobody else in the county has a program like this. Started in 2014 by a community volunteer. We have more than 4 neighborhoods organized, at least 50 households. And research after Fukushima earthquake and tsunami in Japan found that people who recovered most quickly to those who were already connected to the neighborhood and to citizens. The report was titled "Recovering from Disasters, Social Networks Matter More than Bottled Water and Batteries." The state OES is actually creating programs now based on this model. And probably here, Blue Lake. So you may not know, Blue Lake Pod is small, independent groups of neighbors who are prepared and ready to work together to help each other during emergency and natural disasters. And I want to mention this specifically because the pod coordinators have been meeting in the last few months and we're doing recruitments. So we're reaching out to other neighborhoods. We'd like to see a lot more positive things. So 2 of you in a pod, I know. And I'm hoping that more of you might consider starting pods, or you might know people in the neighborhood who want to, or if anybody hears this information, if you're interested in starting a pod, we can help you out. And we have a handout with the contact person's name, and I'll give it to you too.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Julie, Christie, go ahead.
Thank you guys. First off, I would recommend that we pass our hazard mitigation as written. We can always come in and do alterations. But as far as procedure, we need to hand this off. And thank you for paying attention to this delinquent document. So I want to just be clear to everybody in the room there, and thank you guys so much for being there for us tonight and our council. There are a lot of hands that are involved with this that please do not take out your aggressions on the current council and staff.
Good.
Please, you guys, they're there to help you. There are entities that are involved with the county and state that have been neglecting us. Kent mentioned Hank Seaman earlier. He mentioned Mike Wilson earlier. I also am daunted with hazards on my farm and property with the negligence of these hired engineers and people that get to decide who, what, where, when, and why. And it is absolutely mind-boggling. I've always been a patron on our meetings for many years for infrastructure because I do believe that we in a small community have that ability to prepare ourselves, hopefully. But as grants and fundings are drying up, we really are going to have to go back to the grassroots of having community meetings, having CERT, having preparedness, focalizing on key projects, focalizing, here's the big thing, on putting the pressure on the outer entities that are sculpting what we can do. That is our roadblock. And without focusing on them, our energy is wasted. And our property owners along the creek there, you guys, I don't know how long you lived there, but they used to run a D8 up that creek. They used to blow the whole sucker out. Once the watershed and the prior management got their hands on that and started fiddling with it and not doing anything and doing what they did, we then had problems. We do have to rectify those problems. They're very easily mitigated. And if we're going to work towards cow trout, like talk to your new Supervisor Burke. Like, where is she right now in these conversations? Just saying, there's a lot of peoples in hands that have advantage over us, and they use it against us the majority of the time, unfortunately. So let's get educated. Let's work together. And I think we can find solutions a lot quicker than they're going to find us. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Any other public comments?
Real quick,
Sure.
this might be a puzzle piece that illuminates, especially you two, in regards to water. I don't think it's on the map. I reached out to City Hall, to PG&E, et cetera. But there's, I think it's called a DI. What does that stand for?
Drainage inlet.
That's it. That runs from Ron Brunson's old place underneath Evergreen. And I think it goes through the swale there. That's Simpson Park. And then under our property, and there is stagnant water there. And I have cleared the brush. Sunny made to the yard. And then it supposedly goes out to the drain at Russo's on the other side of the fence. But the water is stagnant. So I love Julie and her community comments and her spirit. And yeah, I think that needs ringing, but you know, I don't.
Thank you. Last call. Seeing them bring it back to council. Any further comment? I mean, I know that everyone's like frustrated with the flooding, and I know this, I don't want to get too far off topic with the hazard mitigation adoption. I do think that, you know, obviously the time for talk is kind of over, but I don't know what else we can do besides talk at this point. So hopefully, you know, the bottle lot group can figure out some other mitigation plan, or we can figure out another mitigation plan. But you know, this is beyond my professional expertise. We do a bring back the D8 campaign. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know if it would be helpful if council made it an emergency declaration. Or what it might take, or you know, to assist you as a city manager when you reach out to these outside entities. And I appreciate how we have to consider, you know, fish life cycle, their use of the creek as well. But I think us just waiting for a large fund to take care of the whole river, or sorry, the whole creek, isn't realistic, and we're gonna have to lift this up on priority and help our city manager with it.
And when you look at how much we spent on surveying and all that stuff, there's no result. It's just
That's for sure.
we're just sending money off to the planners and engineers, and then there's no result.
So Jenny, I thought in the past you've mentioned that adopting the hazard mitigation plan is basically our first step in addressing all of these things.
It is, it's the mechanism that makes us eligible for the federal. And that's why it's important to do this step first. It's not the last step, I mean, but if we don't adopt this, we can't apply to FEMA for money unless it's a declared emergency by the state. For county process, so.
Any final comments, or do you wish to entertain them?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we adopt resolution 1265, titled Resolution of the City Council of the City of Blue Lick authorizing the adoption of the Humboldt County Operational Area Hazard Mitigation Plan 2025.
We have a motion.
Second?
We have a second by Stefan. Any further comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or roll call.
Roll call.
Is it roll call? Yeah.
Green, would you go ahead?
yeah.
Initiate a roll call. vote.
Mayor Sawowski,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Scafani,
Aye.
Councilmember Napier,
Aye.
Councilmember Louis Lusso,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Moving on to the next item. Right.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Then I have sales or transactions and use.
Thanks. We're on city staff, with Bill, please fill in on this.
Yes, so we did a contract with HDL. And I'm gonna share this with you, because I had a minor change. This is a state template for the resolution and how it must look. And so this has been filled in with the specific information for our city, but the template itself is theirs. And so if you'll notice down here, Michelle noticed this for me, in section 4, they had misspelled the word redistribution because it had a slash with the word in front of it. Word did not know what to do with it, and so it didn't show it as misspelled. But what this does is it gives HDL, which is Hinterland de Lamas and Associates. It gives them the right to be able to access our records with CDTFA and then be able to create the reports that we've asked them to do. And so this is the second step in the contract.
What are the benefits of?
So the way that this works is once they get that information, they go through and they analyze it and they look for places where there's businesses in town that are not paying sales tax. They look for businesses that maybe only are collecting the 1%, but not the other half that should be coming to us. There's 1% for each half. They also go through and analyze each quarter when the county does the distribution of the sales tax that comes into the county as a whole, because it's not associated with a specific jurisdiction. That money gets separated out according to population. And so they go through and check to make sure that none of the transactions that were in that county section should have actually been for the city of Blue Lake. And when they find those, they put together a claim that they put to CDTFA that says, you know, this business is within the jurisdictional boundary of the city and it's in the city limits, and so therefore we should have gotten all of the 2%. And it'll get taken out of that county pool and it'll get put into the city's pool. And for that, they keep like 15% of whatever they could cover. They also produce reports for us so that we can see based on the types of businesses, where are our sales tax funds coming from? And right now, we don't have any idea what the answer to that is. And so it will literally tell on a monthly basis, this company had this much sales and here's the taxes that you got from it, depending on whether they delivered that here or whether they shipped it to another location.
So ultimately, we are gonna find missing revenue potentially, and also be better situated to anticipate what sort of revenues will be coming to us in the future.
Yes, and I feel like it'll be a good opportunity to see, you know, if a food truck comes to town, how much does a food truck really bring in revenue? And like things that we just don't know the answers to. And they will take all that information and run it through software that they've created for that, and then bring out these nice reports that we can categorize in different ways. And city staff has access to their software. There's a portal they create. So I can ask it to make reports that are based on the information they've already put through their system. Sound like a great tool?
Is there,
Go ahead.
are there any concerns about data security with access to information? Is there anything that we have a reason why we wouldn't want to do this, or we would approach with caution?
Well, this company's been doing this for decades, and their safety protocols are in place and approved by the state. So as much as you would trust your information to, you know, the VA or anything else, that, you know, anything can happen, but they have in place everything that's possible to protect it. And it's not personal information, it would be corporate information.
Okay.
Did you know how they capture the information? Is it strictly from the state generated list and then the county generated list? Or do they also look based on business names?
They will look based on business names as well. They do research that's beyond just what comes from the taxation group. The data, my understanding is the data comes in like these packets from the state, and it's, you know, a garbled mess that only a computer can read. And then their software takes that and it turns it into something that a person can then use. And then they use that information to compare with Google Maps and, you know, anything else that might show locations of businesses that should be reporting that aren't. There's a lot of places they're going to start looking for missing revenue.
And then does the city provide a list of the businesses that have established business licenses with us?
Yes.
Okay, so they get a.
Yeah, they'll have all that data.
Any other questions, comments?
Do you know when we'll get our first report?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know how long after this resolution though.
Like to go ahead and open up the public comments. Anyone wish to comment on this item?
How much would those nice reports cost, please?
Like I said, there is no charge to it. The only time they get paid is when they actually recover revenue for the city, and they only get to take a portion of that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Public comment? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
I can't see.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Let me stop sharing. This is new for us. No hands.
No hands, okay.
Maybe. No hands.
I would like to make a motion.
Hang on, I'll wait, close public comment. Close public comment? Seeing none, bring it back. Go ahead.
I'd like to move that the city council adopt resolution 1266, title of resolution of the city council of the city of Blue Lake authorizing the examination of sales or transaction and use tax records.
Motion made by Stefani, do we have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Luso.
Roll call.
Any further discussion? And initiate the roll call, please.
Mayor Swatsky?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Scafani?
Yes.
Councilmember Napier? Councilmember Louis Luso?
Yes.
And Councilmember Bailey?
All right, moving on to item number 11. We're going to refer, we will fill in on this item.
I would. So, what this is a request for you guys to make, some minor alterations to how the finance department is set up and a budget amendment accordingly. You guys had asked during the presentation of the budget and the adoption of that I bring back the organizational chart. So that's the first thing I'm going to go through with you if I figure out when it is in your packet, and I attempted to try to collect all of the input that had been given during the meeting. I did move the city accountant down here under business and finance, supervised only by myself. And then I have the city attorney and the city clerk directly reporting to city council, but with a little dash line to show that it's a collaborative relationship amongst those three people that report to you guys. The rest of this is all the same. I did make some corrections to lines and kind of, move things over a little, try to get it fit better. Because when I moved the city accountant down there, he took up a lot of space. But functionally, those are the changes that I have to this. The change that you're going to see for the resolution itself has to do with the administrative accounting specialist. When you guys had done the budget, we asked for 2.5 people, which was consistent with what we had in the past. But we are finding, after having done our interviews, that we have one person we'd really like to hire full-time, and then one person that will work part-time but needs to work 32 hours. And so that, because it's 20 or more, it pushes it up into a position that requires benefits. And so I've gone through and calculated all of what that effects of that choice would be to switch from a 19-hour a week person to a 32-hour a week person. And basically there's a table that shows that this will impact the cost of the salary itself is really like a little less than half of the total, because adding benefits is a big deal for the city. We have pretty expensive benefits and we pay a good portion of them. So the total between both is $32,784.93. And I would like for council to approve that. We are really struggling with having everybody's new, and people are trying to learn as fast as they can. Vicki has 3 more days. And so if we can just get this little 0.3 of a position, I think it'll make a really big difference in the long term of having 3 people there that all know how to do the same job. They can back each other up. If one person was to leave, we wouldn't be in the situation we'd be in right now, which is there's nobody that knows how to do the water and sewer billing. So we really need to get enough people in there that we have some backup for the tasks. So. And I want to tell you everything that I changed so you can see it. On the salary plan, everything that's in yellow, I updated from what was in your packet because the spreadsheet was calculating the annual amounts based on the longevity pay instead of the regular pay, and that's not correct. So those 2 lines were pulling from the wrong spot. And then in the resolution itself, there was a correction made up here to attachment B. It said 1264 still, because I copied this from the previous resolution. And then there also is a correction at the bottom here. Instead of saying fiscal year 2024-25, it said 2024-40. So those are changes that I've made to the one that I'd like for you guys to adopt tonight from what was in it.
Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
A small comment, and I wouldn't want it to be anything that would stop a positive of getting this moved on. In the past, before you were city manager, we had asked that it be included the hourly rates for the city planner, the city engineer, and the city attorney.
I can do that separately. CalPERS requires us to adopt a salary plan that's only employees.
That's right.
And so that's why they're not.
You have this conversation, it reminded you. Yeah. Okay, just.
Terry, go ahead.
Is there, Thank you, that's a great org chart because we didn't really have one like this before. So is there any way on there to notate that the little dot dash line just for, so the public understands how that works, that it's collaboration? Cause I, is to make a little notation, just. I don't know, yeah.
It seems like that's one of those understood things. I mean, at least at my place, there's a collaborative connection with a dotted line.
Then that was.
Or oversight, or, there's some collaboration.
And then the other thing, Jenny, so before we had hired, an outside accountant and they did a lot of work for the city. And we don't have that person anymore. To the capacity, not to the capacity that they had before. So I'm thinking they're probably, it's a huge difference in this, even though we have to use that person, but I would imagine as people become more comfortable, or not comfortable, but I mean, they are all like that, so.
And the goal is that some of the things that the previous finance manager did on a daily basis, that be assigned to some of his staff. The person that we'd like to hire to the full-time position, has a bachelor's degree in accounting and has experience in accounting. And so the hope is that then Carrie could start putting some of those things where they're checking another person's work. And Vicki always did it herself. And then that didn't free her up to do some of the actual accounting that needed to be done, so that it got pushed up to the CPA. Our hope is that that's going to level out some, that the accountants, the CPA will do less, that Carrie will do more of the CPA's job, and then the other person will take some of Carrie's work. It's just lower level. It doesn't require Carrie to do it.
And Carrie is a CPA?
She is, yeah. She's our new finance manager.
Thank you.
Did you, and I missed it, already talk about the city manager's holiday hours?
Oh, no. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay. It's not part of the recommended action.
It is. So
Past that.
there's been some difficulty because our personnel policy is pretty outdated. And there's a section in there that says that if a person can't take their holiday, then it gets banked as comp time. And Vicki says, well, it doesn't specifically say the city manager can do that. And you have a contract. I said, I know, but the contract says that the personnel policy is in control. For the sake of clarity, we decided it was simplest just to come back to you guys and be clear that the city manager's benefit package for holidays is going to be the same as everybody else's, except I'm suggesting the following amendment to that. Regular employees get 1.5 times, and that doesn't feel appropriate to me for your city manager. So my suggestion is that you guys just clarify that hour per hour, if I can't take a holiday, I can take it later.
So that means that if on the actual calendar day of a holiday, you are required to work, then you get an hour of comp time that you take on.
It actually would mean that, let's say we have a city council meeting that runs until like midnight 30, for example. And that day is a holiday. And so by the end of Thursday, you've already worked 45 hours. And they're like, okay, there are no holiday hours to apply. That's generally what it is. Is that there just is so many other, the problems I've had, the 3 that they specifically want to deal with, were all in weeks where we had a city council meeting and it went really late. So then, but you still have tasks to do on Wednesday and Thursday. So I just couldn't get enough time clicking off on those other days just to make up for the Tuesday night, late night.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I think it's generous of you just to go 1-to-1 ratio.
I mean, I am an exempt employee, so that feels fair, like some middle ground.
Public comment on this item?
So it'd be interesting to see some kind of assessment after 6 months or a year or something, so that they can see how much you've saved from taking the accounting away from the accountant in your department. The other thing that we would all be hopeful for, because adding on a new salary position possibly isn't something that would be guaranteed for long term. In other words, that person may only be needed for a year. Hopefully, the process of the meter reading and things will get our smart meters in. We understand that process. It also has a software that enables that automatically to be billed, and a collection thing. So a lot of the time we spend here by technology may be able to take care of that. And I know before it was, we allegedly applied for a grant for meters and we were unsuccessful. I would consider to continue that because I think there is a major cost savings there to use the technology of smart meters. That's why PG&E and all these people have switched over to that technology these days. It does cut back a lot on the paper and bookkeeping time and things of that nature. So strongly support that. And again, hopefully, if we're lucky that position may be able to be moved in another direction or something as needed. But thank you much.
Thank you. Further comment? Seeing none. Bring it back to council. Any other?
Before you make a motion, I'd like to provide one little detail. The accounting department would prefer that your motion include the words that this is effective July 6th. The same as the salary plan for the changes that you're making to this salary pages, and that the stuff for the city manager is effective as of the date of hire.
Oh.
Is that it?
I know, I'm sorry, they were very specific about what they wanted.
All right, I would like to make a motion. Are you ready?
Well, I'll make a comment after. You
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt by a roll call vote, resolution number 1267, a resolution of the city council of the city of Blue Lake amending the adopted operating budget for fiscal year 26-27 and approved organization chart and as of July 6th. And affirm that the city manager's holiday hours can be banked as comp time for future use as needed as of date of hire.
And the effective July 6th for the salary, not just for the chart.
Oh.
You did great.
And for the salary, well as the whole school. Yeah, effective July 6th.
Yeah, put a big motion there. Can we get
Is that okay?
I would second.
I have a motion made by Louis Luso, seconded by Scafani. Any further comment? I just want to say it feels like it feels like we're expanding. And I just wonder like how much further, but also I know we're retracting services. So
Yeah.
like I think an example was made, like, let's see where we're at and how much. Yeah, I think that'll
I
be a good
agree.
example to report.
No, I agree, and I think it'd be ideal to do that when we do the mid-year budget
Sounds good.
review.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and this is a roll call vote. Go ahead.
Mayor Slawski.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Scafani.
Aye.
Councilmember Napier.
Aye.
Councilmember Louis Luso.
Aye.
Councilmember Bayless.
Right.
Was that aye?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Moving on to
That was perfect.
item number 12, memorandum of agreement with County Humboldt for environmental health service.
Okay, so we can go as deep into this as you would like, but here's the overview. We have had a contract with the county to provide these services for decades. That the county has reviewed that and they said all of our agencies need new agreements. We need to go through and update all the government code sections, and just so many things have changed for environmental health. And so what you have before you is an updated memorandum of agreement just between us and the Department of Environmental Health to provide all the services they've been providing here already, including, food permits and food truck permits, and they do all the inspections of anybody who sells anything that falls into their category. There are probably 15 pages of services in attachment to this MOU. And the thing that I was most concerned about is if we need help from them on something that's not listed, are they going to provide that? And they will. They will provide help on anything that we ask for. They will charge us for it if it's not something that they can charge the customer for. So if the person has to get a permit, they get their funding from the person. But if we're asking for them to intervene in something, then we would pay for it, like we would with any of our other contract services.
Question? Comment or
It's long.
And then one.
Yes, Councilmember Napier.
Yeah, I know it's been some time since we had talked about this, and I think it was Ben Dolph, that was his name. Regarding Miko, the micro enterprise home kitchen. And we did not have a physician or a qualified health officer to be able to do this. Where does Miko stand now?
So here's my suspicion, based on my conversations with Mario, who has been thoughts. Once we have this in place, I am anticipating that we will get a letter from them asking us to revise our ordinance, to not list ourselves as the public health officer, but to have them be that. And they may have some other alterations that they like made to that, but that was the main thing that he said they were upset about, was like, our city manager is not a public health officer.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, man.
Like to go.
There was one last
Sure,
comment.
go ahead.
Because this adds another potential layer, do you anticipate reevaluating business license fees? There's potential.
It's kind of a layer in that regard. This just basically renews how they already do it.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, let me rephrase my question. For businesses that do business here in Blue Lake and get a business license from the city, we have whatever the fee is currently. Seeing that this could impact the city by having to pay for some things from the county in addition to. Do you anticipate reviewing business license fees?
I do not, because I don't foresee anything that's in this agreement changing the city's costs for services the county is already providing for those businesses, because they charge them directly. Our charges would be more like on an enforcement issue if we wanted to do something that was beyond the scope of what requires a permit.
Public comment?
Just a quick question, and I apologize for not having read that portion of the packet. I assume this MOU with Mr. Dolph, et cetera, is this basically an hourly rate and we just pay them as we need them, or are we paying a yearly service fee and then they provide services, or is that a combination of it?
There's no annual fees. If we ask for their services, it would be on a cost recovery basis, and the vast majority of what they do will be paid for by the permittee.
Thank you for that clarification.
Further public comment? Seeing none, Julie, go ahead.
Thank you, Kent, for getting that clarification as well. My concern would be, how are they helping us? Maybe I'm incorrect that with the rabies outbreak in Blue Lake, and I'm gonna call it that, you guys. That's weird. Something's up with that. And they have jurisdiction over that. And I feel that we were kind of let down on that situation, and it's still ongoing, like, situation that should have concern, and I would like their support with it. Whether they have ever thought about involving CDFW, we have a warden that lives in our town, Matthew Renner. But that's really concerning to me, the rabies situation that we have been incurred with. And if that does have purview in this department, I would definitely like some follow-up and accountability on their behalf. Thank you.
City Manager Short, is there a rabies outbreak right now, or is it from the last? Julie, sorry to ask, I think it's from last year. I don't.
Yeah, I feel like
There's been ongoing cases that have been warranted enough to give attention to.
Thank you. Does this cover rabies, or would that be our care contract?
I believe that the rabies part is in here. I was just looking to see under the countywide services they provide.
The
Yeah.
page is on. Yeah, there's a vector control.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That's item. Where are you? So it's the the fourth page and exhibit A is vector control. Vector ones.
It says the programs implemented countywide is mandated or authorized by state law, agreement between the city and county. And it's number WB program vector. Is the vector should be responsible for disease transmitting and
There's also a typo on page 10.
I can't fix any of those, you don't. These are not my documents.
Sorry.
Yeah. I fixed all of my good.
Is there any concern? I mean, it's kept in there, so that's gonna cover.
We'll cover
Okay,
it,
great.
I'm not concerned about that. I haven't heard about an ongoing
There,
rabies outbreak, so.
I think there was some action last year.
Yeah, last
So,
year, yeah.
And there was, I heard, saw a report on the Facebook about something potentially, but I haven't heard.
Recently,
Like a week or two ago?
skunk,
Yeah.
rabbit skunk.
Was
Was
it?
it confirmed?
I don't think it was confirmed. Is this specifically about dogs or just other critters?
No, rabies primarily in guns, foxes and bats.
With this MLA,
After
just
the
everything
pages
well.
are numbered, it's.
Dogs so creepy.
Yeah, last call for public comment. Okay, come back to council for potential. Correct.
I would like to make a motion to authorize the city manager to execute the memorandum of agreement signed between County of Humboldt and the City of Hewlett for environmental health services. I would second that.
Motion by Nick here and a second by Louis Lucia. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Carried. Moving on to the next item. Power plant update. City staff, would you like to fill us in on this?
Well, this should be really brief because, it's late and we have people waiting for us.
Do we want to table it? or-
It's okay, I can give you a really quick update. I assume most people know, I let all of you guys know the day that it happened. On 4th of July, the fuel pile at the power plant caught on fire. The fire department came out, they did an amazing job of getting it out. Public works staff came, used the backhoe to clear stuff out. Gary from GLJ brought a really big excavator with a long range arm to make holes for the fire department so they could get water down into the inside. About 1 o'clock is when they responded, probably by 4:30 or 5, they mainly had it out. 2 days later, some of it was smoldering, and so they came back out and they worked on it some more. Yesterday, some roofs were still on fire. So they've been back out a third time. So we're really keeping a really close eye on anything that looks like smoke or anything that looks odd that's coming from that pile. I did invite, I'll show you some of the pictures. So this is when it was very first caught on fire. You see it got quite a bit of smoke going before the fire department got there. That was when Glenn was just there. But here's the excavator that came and here's some of the firefighters. They were going at it from a number of directions. We did have some issues with the water system that's on the power plant property itself, and the fire trucks from the fire department connected to it. There was these little tiny rocks in it that ended up in their truck. It ended up being a problem. So we're gonna have to flush that out before we use it again. Here they got the excavator up to the top, and so Gary was digging holes for them, and they were shooting water down into it. You can see here's a picture of the firework that actually started the fire. It looked like they had started it in the middle of the road, and it has this circle that's about this big of where it burned the asphalt, and I think it just got off into the grass because I was told it was one of those spinning flowers. I don't know exactly, but it got over here far enough to get it started. And then after the fire, this is what it looks like. You can see the area that's burned between the poor trees, but between the fence and the pile, and then it goes up and over the pile onto the top. I didn't realize till I went out there to look at it after the fire had burned it, how much of the top of that pile has grass on it. So that's part of the reason it was able to move across the top. And then this is what it looks like from the other direction. You can see we have a lot of standing water, and we're investigating whether there's a source of this water that's related to the fire suppression system that's on this site, because the meter that goes to the actual power plant's turned off, but the meter that's the bypass meter for the fire suppression system is still on. And there's an awful lot of water out here considering how dry it's been already. And so one of the outcomes of this has been that Glenn is going to experiment with turning that off and seeing if we can get this pile to dry out. It may have a source of water that's causing it to be so smushy out there. So that's my last picture for this. I did invite Ron Hill to come out. He came out with Glenn and I, and we inspected it together. I wanted him to make a judgment call on whether He still felt like the quality of the material was sufficient for the people that he's looking at sending it to, and he dug around a little bit in the top, and he didn't feel like the damage was significant enough to deter his customers. So we're continuing to proceed with working with him on trying to get a contract together on exactly what he wants to do out there. So that's what I have to share on the power plant. I don't really have any action I need from you, but I just wanted to, in a public forum, kind of give you an update on what had happened.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Yeah, I was worried and thought it was a little suspect, like all of a sudden we're trying to get rid of this.
Yeah, my comment to Jenny was, you can't make this up.
Yeah.
You can't make this up. Like, what? You've got to be taken.
Start the fire for All right, any public comment on the cloud? Julie, go ahead. Julie, last try. Are you muted? Oh, there, maybe. Okay, 3 seconds.
You're breaking up really bad, Julie.
Yeah.
I can only put my, I ran. So here's snap.
There we go.
If I raise it up here. You guys hear me better? Okay, cool. Here's my thoughts. Definitely got to get that old stuff out. Do I think that's truly the problem with the fire? Not necessarily. We have the bike park. Thank you guys for hanging out to listen to that next item. Because me as a parent, have always been not cool with the thought of everybody on parking in an industrial area unloading their bikes with their children. But if anything, maybe RCMBA, once we get that cleaned out, just that lower lot, it's just open space. We could use that for parking rentals and something for now without really having to do something too fancy and get some revenue. But we need parking and we need that place cleaned up, and it's not your guys' fault. I was at the meeting. The prior mayor said we have other visions for this place. We're denying the lease, and other councils might think this is crazy in the future, blah, 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 blah. It obviously was. We're left with the aftermath, and it's not your problem. It's not your fault, but it is our problem. Okay, I gotta get back to these sheepies. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the next item. Item number 14, city manager short. Can you fill us in on this item?
Yep. So this is an update on the bike park. I was asked to update the financials, and so that is part of what's in here. I'll share what's in the packet so we can kind of go through it. The way that I set this up is that the first page, here, let me make this bigger so it's too many things going there. You can even make that small. Which one? For the top one. Yeah. That's okay. I just need to get it wide enough that people can see it. Okay, that's much better. Okay, so I can see the numbers. So the first page of the summary of finances lists out all the transactions from our CMBA that was provided to me by their accountants. And these have not changed since the last time I did this report for you. So you can see first I have all of the revenues that they got. These were different people that made donations, and then these were how they spent that money. And you can see there's a net difference of $1,314.43. So basically that's how much cash they put into it. In addition to that, they've also donated money to the city that's not a part of this total. So for the city section, and these are all in the city's accounting system, these are the expenses that we've had: Daisy's, Mercer Fraser. This was for the asphalt. A little bit of SHN. Stephen Pearl did the design that went to the planning commission. A little bit of time for Mitchell Law Firm. We've got 2 invoices from GLJ Construction. The $825 one had been paid a while back. The $23,714 one was one of the ones that you guys had asked me to verify. And I had gone through all of his way tags, and I went out and looked on the bike park, and there's evidence that all of the rock and stuff that he had on there was incorporated into the project. So for me, this is the valid expense for work that was incorporated. And it was for materials, it wasn't for construction work on site. Then we also have 2 invoices from Wildland Operators. The first was for $30,375. And the way this was paid is Mandy would authorize a section of it based on how much had been received in donations. And so I went ahead and included in the packet all the backup for these payments that actually were in our accounting system. And you can see her notes and how she did the calculations. You can see the report that Vicki ran for her to show how much had been spent and how much had been brought in donations, and then they would take the difference and they would pay on this invoice. But this entire invoice hasn't been paid in full. There's still $3,900 of it that remains unpaid. Then after Mandy left, the $113,000 invoice came from Wildland Operators, and that's the one that I've been working with him on. $20,000 of it was paid when our CMBA brought $20,000 to the city that was specifically designated to help pay for part of his work that he had done on the site. I now have 2 versions of an invoice from him. One has got a bunch of equipment and some materials listed without any details. That was the one that I had asked him to provide backup for. I left a copy, I put a copy of the letter that I wrote to him back in March in your packet, which basically lays out for him what I expect of him if he wants to be deemed a valid city invoice that needs to be paid on. Didn't hear from him. He sent me another invoice and all it had on it was labor. Everything else had been removed. And that's also in your packet. Had a conversation with him last week about, okay, listen, obviously I'm not going to deem this to be valid. This is not okay. You don't have a contract. You don't have any backup. You haven't shown that the city had actually authorized you to do this work. And so as we talked it through, I really feel like the way that he sees his invoice is the intention was always that there was going to be fundraising that was going to pay for any equipment that he was using and any time that he was having people work out there, and the city was never going to be responsible for it. They always were going to do it through their own books. It wasn't until the city got involved and started running things through our books that it really kind of came to a head as to how was he ever going to get reimbursed. He has not asked the city to pay him directly. He has not asked for any of the donations from the Brunson Family Trust or anything else to be used towards this invoice. What he did ask me is if the council would be willing to consider allowing their group to fundraise for it. And if people are willing to help pay his invoice off, just let them. So that's one of the questions is before you. The rest of these expenses have all been covered by donations. There's a long list in here of people that have donated to this bike park. It's broad, it's companies, it's people. I mean, it's pretty astounding when you look at the list. And in the end, the city has $92,251 in donations, and we've only had cash outlaid from us is only $1,419. So the city hasn't paid any of the money from the general fund with this section of this teeny tiny amount, which in part is staff time, towards this project. It's all been fundraised through our CMBA. This $92,000 does include the $33,300 that our CMBA funneled to the city to make payments on things like the Wildland invoice and the other things. So I just wanted to make sure you guys had a clear understanding of out of pocket, the city is not in deficit really. I mean, and the same thing for our CMBA, the amount of donations that they've received is substantial. The biggest question is, I feel like the city needs to work towards paying off GLJ's invoice, and he's happy to let us just pay a little bit at a time as people donate money towards it. And then we need to work out a way for either to tell Wildland Operators they're never going to get paid, or to allow him to work with other people to fundraise towards his costs being paid, and we only pay him when somebody brings money specifically for his invoice. A couple other things that I wanted you to be aware of is that our plan is at the July 28th meeting to bring forward to you the Brunson family donation for the bike park. I've talked to Humboldt Area Foundation, and they have a grant agreement that goes with that. And so I don't want you guys to accept that donation until we've seen it. So they're currently putting that together. She said that there's a process they have on their end where they receive the money first and then they produce the grant agreement, which of course makes sense. So that's a process that she's still working out with the trust itself. So my hope is that in time for the agenda packet for July 28th, that all that will be tied up and I'll have a copy of it. But if not, I'm gonna postpone accepting it until we have all the paperwork in place so that we know what we're agreeing to.
Okay. I just have one tiny bit of clarification correction for the corrective action plan.
Okay.
Printout, it indicates that we approved it at our meeting February 2025.
Oh,
But it was
That is
February,
off.
February 10th, 2026.
Okay, I fixed it on one of them.
Yeah,
Clearly not this one.
yeah, I didn't.
It
catch
is
that
what
in
it
my first
is.
pass. I apologize.
Yeah. And we did make payment to GOJ for the $5,000. I also just literally before I came over here, received the final version of the agreement between Points West Surveying and the city that I'm asking you to authorize me to execute. Now I'm done negotiating with him. He's agreed to do the work that we need to do for step 3 for the $4,500 that you guys set aside. And then once we have that information and we have some additional information from, I'm hoping to get some from Stephen Pearl of what the layout was that actually went to the planning commission so that he can simply overlay that. Then he'll come back and tell us based on what we have available, what will it take to be able to finish that assessment of what are the differences, this step 5, the comparison between the as-built conditions with the approved project documents. But I had him break it into 2 different pieces so that we are contracting only for step 3. And then once we get that, we have a chance to look at it, we then will add scope to his contract for step 5.
And that's going to include a comprehensive assessment with recommendations or what step is that?
So step 5 is more about identifying the differences. Step 6 is about remediation. And I feel like when we get to step 6, that's not a surveyor type job.
Okay.
We need to have somebody who knows how to design bike parks.
Great, yeah, okay.
And that person would be looking at the results. Some part of it, the results from
Yes, and the cross sections. And I really think as part of step 6, we need to, in the previous timeline, when we get to step 6, we need to have done some community outreach. We need to have had some meetings and some of the things that we like to do in preparation for the grant application. Because this person needs to know, here's what the community wants. We want a half pipe and we want a gathering area. We want, we don't want to put them in the position where they're having to try to perform all that community outreach. It'd be better to have done that on the front end and then give them some information on what people are thinking. And then they can make some different layouts and see how does that fit, and can you fit it around what's already been built and the toes of the slopes that are out there or not? And there's lots of questions that will be posed in step 6, but we want to know what do we want out there by the time we get to that spot.
Good point.
And
What's the time frame or the expected time frame to get to that?
I feel like step 6 is a money issue. I think that we probably are going to have plenty of donations, the 4,500 for step 3. And I feel like there's been a lot of enthusiasm over the last few weeks since we were told it was okay to go out and start doing maintenance. And I know that, somebody said only 12 people were out there, but they came more than one time and they got it all done. I mean, the amount of work that got completed by the volunteers out there is wonderful. I mean, we're going to get a good survey because not only did they cut all the grass down, they picked it all up and they put it in the backhoe, and Glenn took it over and put it in the power plant. We have a nice clean site out there for that drone to fly over. And so I think enthusiasm is going to make a difference on donations coming in for the next steps in the corrective action plan.
Is the creek, does that factor into the drone survey at all?
It shouldn't. The property line for this property is up off of the creek. It's just behind the trail. One of the things that I'm gonna have him do this a little bit outside the scope of the bike park is I want him to tie the property corners. This company has done 3 surveys in this area in the last year. And so he sent me some of his data and I'm like, okay, I want those on there too. So I want to know exactly where are the property boundaries of that piece of property. There's been a lot of confusion because there's an APN line that goes across it, but it is not two pieces of property. It's all one piece of property. And that APN line was drawn many, many decades ago, back in the 80s, when that was the division between the county and the city. And so because of that, they created two APNs, even though there was one legal parcel. And that was before the city owned it. And so that's been carried forward on all the maps, and it is where the APN line is, but it's not where the property boundary is. And so that affects both the bike park and the Danco project, because they're both on the same parcel. But my survey is gonna show that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so Jenny, on the first page, expenses, the finance. And it says transactions from OCMBA. So is this what came into them and they paid directly? And it did it become part of the city?
That's correct. They had already expended all that money before the city intervened and said, this needs to go through our system.
Okay. Yeah, and then, so the rest of this has some of it been donated directly, or has all this money come through?
Everything that's shown in transactions in the city's accounting system that says donation and a name came in directly. If it says donation and RCMBA, it's a combination of a variety of donations that they got and or fundraisers that they did. They've been selling beer at Annie and Mary Day for years to try to fundraise for this. So that's kind of the distinction in our accounting system, is the RCMBA ones didn't come from a specific person.
And so RCMBA on their site has raised the 16,600.
Well, not only that, they also raised the 33,300 that they gave to us.
Okay. And then I do have a question about the wild man operators and being paid. Yeah, just because there's a little bit of where they're saying that Dana was not, he thought that it was just going to be by money raised. And I've also read in a lot of things that it was only for materials and not for his labor, and that he was donating his labor. And yet in the city, I think that's something.
It's the invoice 00, where he switches from materials to labor.
He does switch.
Yeah, it's right after the June 30th.
Yeah,
letter.
and so then when he's highlighting why he's putting this invoice in, he talks about how he designs the park. And then on the bike park budget, and this must be a city document.
It's not really, no,
It's
but
not.
yeah.
Okay.
That's a Dana created document that they were using to determine where they were at on his vision of what this was gonna cost.
Okay. And so he has it listed as labor plus expense against for this charge. So I guess there's just some. And when you're looking at whether or not this is a valid expense, what else would you be wanting from him to
If he had been able to provide copies of emails from Mandy that said, we're gonna pay you X number of dollars towards this particular grouping of work that you're gonna do as a volunteer. I would have seen that differently than everything that I have been told by a variety of people I've talked to is all that this was all just verbal. It started out with Tavis wanting to help with this, and so he started paying Dana first, and then what Dana told me is when it got to $18,000 and Tavis had paid him that much, he's like, I'm kind of out on this. This is bigger than I thought it was going to be. And so then that's when they started doing more fundraising with the idea that the fundraising was going to help pay for this stuff. And you can see from the notes in the accounting documents that, Mandy was on board with that first invoice. She signed off on them. Her name's all over this stuff. The second invoice doesn't come in until after she's gone. And so the only documentation in here is when Danny forwarded the $20,000 that RCMBA gave to us. And so I can find nothing where anybody authorized the work that's on that second invoice on behalf of the city. And this, I mean, and the amount of this is so far in excess of anything that the city manager would have had the authority to approve anyway. I mean, I've looked and he, on the contracting board, he told me, like, I'm not a contractor, he's not. You know, the contracting board shows that he doesn't have a contractor's license. This is a public works project. If you're doing it as a volunteer, it's one thing, but if you're gonna get paid for it, that's a problem. And so this is a very convoluted mess when you start considering that the city could never have entered into a contract like this, but everything that I found is the city didn't enter into a contract like this. This was more done by volunteers that were enthusiastic, I think had the best of intentions. And it has grown to a point where when you look at it as an outsider later, you're like, what in the world went on here? But I think it's just a little bit at a time. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And people are like, yeah, this is great. Let's keep going.
So just so you're aware, Danny did receive those funds, and I said, Danny, do not pay them until we figure out what is going on, and she did it. And that's what happened with the $20,000, because they were under the, Dana told them that that he was gonna get the paving done for the $20,000, with the 20, and then it got held up.
And one question I do have, given the fact that in order to do paving, in order to move this 1,000 square yards of material, there had to be somebody who within this project was the person who was overseeing someone who's not a contractor, and you have to have a contractor's license specific to be able to move dirt and to pave. And how do we move from here when we had someone totally inexperienced doing this? And I think it would not be in the city's best interest to even authorize him to be paid. Whether he was excited and everybody was excited, somebody within the city, if you look at our own ordinances that have to do with paving and with dirt work and grading, there should have been people even with in our own city that was overseeing this and say, wait a minute, stop. And so I have to say, I'm really concerned looking at this more and more that this was someone totally inexperienced doing this. And maybe he had experience somewhere else, but he's not, he should have never been on that job. And so is it a legitimate payment from anywhere if we authorize this that we should not even be authorizing? Be my question.
Well, I think some consideration should be given to, the fact that RCMBA does this in a lot of places. This is not the only place that they fundraise and then build trails. And they do it on property that's owned by the county. They're doing it in the McKay Forest right now. And so it would not have been, they wouldn't have gone, wow, this is so different than anything else, because they're doing it other places too. And so, I just feel like as an outsider at the end, it's easy to look back and go like, why didn't they think this was a problem? But if you have the experience of doing it other places and have successfully completed these sorts of things, which is my understanding of both Dana and RCMBA as a group, I can see why they just kept moving forward.
Well, I mean,
and with the city manager's approval.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I mean, Dana was really clear that twice Mandy and Mike came out there and gave him authorization to make alterations to locations for things and what he was building. And so he wasn't doing it out there by himself.
So statements made by the city engineer in the previous meeting, he said he had like no idea what would happen. So that's why we need Dana to really come forward and say this himself. It'd be helpful, unless that is statement. I mean, that's what he told me, and that's what he's told you. So I'm assuming that that's what happened, but I'm not understanding why city staff just aren't straightforward and be like, yeah, we did stuff. It's just, sorry.
Yeah, I can't answer that question. I'm not that person.
Right, no, I'm just.
well, and I think just really considering as we move forward or whatever it is we're doing, this is a public works project. It always was from the very, very beginning. And it was a responsibility for a lot of people in this, in the city, to make sure that this was done in the right way. And it makes me sad because these are kids who are playing on this. This is a public project that should have, from the very beginning, but there, I mean, even Mandy, by applying for the grant, was saying that this project was going to be over an $800,000 or $700,000 project. Once a donation is made into a city, it is public funds. It doesn't have some special, other than it's only used for a particular project or a particular purpose. It does not have, we're still spending public funds. And if you're going to spend $1 of public funds, there are certain ways you need to do it. And I just want to make sure that we are clear as a council to get the information that we need moving forward on this, that everything we're going to do is the right way. So I'm concerned about even spending any money on this project because it's an open, active public works project. And what is our legal responsibility to take care of this and make sure we work in the right way? And I think I don't want to be the person that somebody's saying to me, which I've heard from several people, that the council approved it. The council just moved forward. And then somebody say, well, they didn't ask the questions. They didn't think about it. They approved it, and the buck stops here at this table for whatever we do. And I just think we need to make sure that we get the advice that we need to get and make sure that we're moving forward with this in the right way.
Do you mind if I go left?
No.
Louise, anything? Brandon?
When you say people are telling you that the council approved it,
No,
they mean historically?
No, with lots of different things. And so when you're asking questions about, and in some ways, yes, that, and this was a while ago last year, and it was said to me, well, the council didn't ask questions. They watched it happen and didn't ask questions. And this would have been years back. And so, I don't want to be the person now that's not asking the necessary questions because I feel a little bit as a community member and as a council member let down by the people who were in charge in the city. And, I'm on my soapbox here, but it's concerning and I want to make sure we make the right decision.
So, just so we were all aware, I was told by Dana that Evan Tavis were going to be coming tonight. So I was hoping they could help us wrap up the bike park report because we're still waiting for statements from. They're hoping they would come forward and tell their side of the story. But it sounds like there were people who kind of threw them under the bus in some ways, in regards to the project. So I was hoping that they would come forward and talk to us. And Dana is going to be submitting. He said he has emails and documents,
right,
and texts from the city manager potentially and from Mike or something.
I don't know. I'll see what he brings. He says he's bringing me everything he's got, and I can have copies of anything I want. So we'll see what that turns out to be. I just wanted to, if I could just comment, and I don't know if Jill gave this to you. It is a document that she created out of every place in the last 3 years that the council was informed on this project, and it's pretty extensive over the period of time from March of 2022 to April of 2025. So it's not like it was done in a vacuum.
Well, and that also being said, we had the planner, I had one of the planners who approved the original bike park design, and he saw what they were doing and he called City Hall and he said, this isn't what we approved. What do you guys
No,
do?
it's definitely not what the planning commission had approved.
And he was afraid to come forward, but he was, he contacted the city to try and alert them that it wasn't what they approved and where you're gonna get in trouble. Seems like people raised alarms and were ignored. Questions, comments, or consent?
To address Terry's concerns, I was thinking, well, we have this corrective action plan, we've approved it. It seems pretty comprehensive and straightforward. Aside from possibly agendizing this at every meeting for a regular update to ensure that we are being informed on a regular basis, what would make you more comfortable? But I'm not done with that. Just thinking about what would make you more comfortable to ensure that we are being responsible with moving forward with this and spending funds and making sure that we're keeping our eye on this as the entity that, and as we're supposed to be responsible for this. And I would like to be more solution-based moving forward rather than focusing on problems and what's happened in the past. I know that a lot of people do want to hear the story. There's a focus on what went wrong, what didn't happen, but it feels like I'm wanting to push forward, be more solution-based, making sure that we are being responsible and being aware of what is happening to make sure that nothing like this happens again. Not to minimize any concerns or anything that's happened in the past, but just to try to move forward in a way that's productive. And that would make it, like some of these things that we are doing and addressing are going to make a difference at the end of the day for this project.
And just so you were 100%, I agree with you. I've been hearing for about a year now that someone's going to come forward to stamp this document, no matter what. I have concerns about that because there's been some validity brought forth that no matter what, the document will stamp. So I do have some safety concerns about the bike park status, as well as we've already had broken bones on that. So.
For me, it would be to make sure that perhaps a consultation with an outside attorney that would be specialized in public contracts and where we go from there. How do we set this up so we make sure we do this right? Because I think this is a learning experience and I appreciate everything you brought forth, Jenny, and it's so thorough and this was something people were asking for all along. And so I really appreciated it. Everything that happened was not a result of this right now, but the council can make decisions based on the information they get. A lot of the information they got, there's a lot of conflicts in the information span, the time of just sitting down and looking at it and reading. And so the council relies on, and even the past council would rely on getting information thoroughly and accurately. And it was a difficult move, even over in 2025, to be able to get accurate information. And I know how hard we all worked trying to do that. And so in all fairness to the council, throughout this project, there was a point where somebody said that the agreement from the planning commission passing it was the city approving it. Right. And so if the council believes that staff says that, and that's true, I don't know, are they supposed to go out on a big hunt to find the results or get information to that? So I appreciate everything coming forward, but for me, I would make sure that some way of knowing with somebody who has that specialized expertise to let us know what we.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, if all the people involved would just come forward, just right off the bat, just let us know what happened, like the bike park probably would be completed at this point in some shape or form or another. I would hope so, but it's been the reluctance to bring forward documentation and information that's really hindered the outcome of it. I mean, we had to basically put a hold on it once the PRA came out with the email with me, Dana. We couldn't move forward. So again, if information just come forward, we would have probably finished the
like to offer that I think at this point, going with Points West surveying is an excellent plan. And I think that given the concerns, the historical concerns of, the lack of accurate information coming forward, and what appears to be a continued, effort to be less than entirely forthcoming from the various players, I think going forward. And finding an engineer that's not related to this project in any way, shape, or form to review and to either stamp the plan or create a new one that can be stamped. I think that, unfortunately, it's probably our only clear path or clean path forward. You know, it just seems like there's too many people that are playing the CYA game. And we just have to, you know, be just completely forthright about the whole mess. And be contracting with individuals that have no connection to what has happened in the past. So just that being clear and open, and we're, you know, we can make that kind of make that statement tonight and say, hey, we're gonna rewrite we're gonna rewrite how we're going forward. We've had a lot of people come up and in various meetings and various groups say, hey, we'll make this work. You know, we'll get an engineer to stamp it one way or another. We're gonna get an engineer to stamp it. It's like, well, we don't want that kind of stamp. We want a real one. We want a real stamp from a real engineer that really knows what they're doing. And not just gonna do it to make it happen. So, I mean, safety has to be first, absolutely. And we have to make sure that that's how that goes.
No, go ahead.
Yes, hi, welcome to the conversation. I think that there is some value in identifying the many issues that were created by this project or occurred within this project. And I think it is part of the conversation of moving forward. I'm not prepared to just say completely for it. I mean, there's so many issues with this, as Terry pointed out. I mean, this is a public works project. It never went out to bid. And the person doing the work didn't build according to the plans that were approved. We don't have any change orders that a typical professional would expect or even demand if they're going to make changes in the field. We have an unlicensed contractor out there. You know, I think that we've had an awful lot of soil that was moved right near a creek where we already have huge problems with sediment building up. And just looking at last April with City Manager Maker providing a financial update. And at that time, when the park was already in its current state, or very, very close to it, we're told that basically expenditures were about 40-something thousand and fundraising was about 40-something thousand. And it's important to acknowledge that this council pressed to get actual figures. And after City Manager Maker's departure, we suddenly get this bill for $113,000 and another $20,000 for work that's been completed months, if not over a year prior. That's very problematic. And that could even be considered collusion. They were asked to withhold those and disallow the public and disallow the council to be aware of what was already owed on that project. These are big stakes. And I think that's why we need to be above board and very clear about many of the findings in this. Then lastly, I'll go to on that as an example, even as a small thing, on the $20,000 that was donated and then paid to wildland operators. Our own financial manager at the time, Danny Burkhart, who paid that, disregarded our own fiscal or financial policy that says any donations over $5,000 need to come before council to approve. It came in on one day and went right back out the next day. That's problematic, and I think it is important that the public kind of understand the degree to which this isn't just enthusiasm. This is complete mismanagement in my view, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm disappointed as a council member to have to try to mop this up, and I'm unhappy that I am targeted in being, I guess, characterized as hating the bike park. I hate that we have to go through this process at all. And I wish that we had either what was planned out there or followed a legitimate process with a real contract, with a real license and real insurance. So I guess to get to my final point on Mr. Creech's request that if the city doesn't pay it to allow fundraising for that, I see that as not much further away than money laundering in the sense, or letting this wash through somewhere else. It wasn't legitimately incurred. And when I look back at the video from just last year and some of the documents, and even in the city manager staff report, it's talking about volunteer hours. It is not talking about what is already out there and $13,000. So I can't see right now, like first and foremost, I can't see the city or this council approving anyone to do the fundraising or us paying when we don't even know what the remediation might entail. And even beyond that, I think it was Terry was suggesting, is an attorney to review under what condition we could pay and how could we validate it, or even if we should or if we should not. I don't want to put the city in a position like, oh, everyone was excited, they did this work, and we're going to go ahead and pay them, or we're going to let someone else pay them. I think that is asking us to cheat, frankly, and I'm not down for it.
Here,
Public comment.
Did wish to make comment on the donation by the Brunsons. He's going through the Humboldt Area Foundation. I guess they're set up to handle that for them. And I think as far as transparency goes, eventually going to tackle that. I think they charge maybe 7% to administer those funds. So there's something that when working with them that take into consideration. And also that's a question the public would have. Brunson's decision, and if they wish to have it administered through Humboldt Area Foundation, it's fine. Our amount we're getting apparently is a net amount that we've been told we get after whatever they charge. I do totally understand the concerns with the involving in any way, shape, or form, hands-on, hands-off, or anything with an unlicensed contractor who's been contracting. I guess you cannot control if some other group does what they do, but validate that and acquiesce to that. And I totally concur that I felt we were lied to. I hate to have to use that term by our Mr. Fogut of SHN when he came in here, said he had no knowledge of things when clearly it's demonstrated that he does. And I would not accept from him anything. The city engineer has total conflict of interest in any way, shape, or form, him being willing to sign off on any project of that particular nature, which he obviously has a personal agenda and financial involvement in. That's a conflict of interest. I believe, is Mr. Pulley, is that who is doing your surveying? Is that his firm who does that there?
This was from.
Yeah, and I totally trust him. And if he has suggestions for an engineer, he's known for being the best surveyor and the services he provides within the county, participates with the county themselves to oversee things, and is quite well respected in the community. If he has a suggestion as far as process or an engineer to have go over this, I strongly suggest that you follow the suggestion. Great amount of faith. Thank you for what you're doing on following through on this, and it's necessary. It's been a very wrong thing, and it just you can't move on until we understand exactly what goes on. Doesn't matter what emails you come up with saying that you can pay them. That was not within the purview or ability to be done, and those are moot issues. And I strongly suggest that, unfortunately, nobody showed up today to explain and have their side. I guess they don't have a side. They don't show up to express opportunity.
Thank you. Further public comments? Julie, go ahead.
Well, Kent, as usual, the diehard, I really have to concur with everything he just said. I actually, prior to a new manager, called out the engineering and insurance and was informed by our prior manager that that was all done. That's recorded. Obviously, we know that's not true now. And as a person that literally dedicates their entire livelihood to the next generation, just kids that get out there and get stuff done outside of anything that's technology. I really support the bike park. However, we do, Terry, Kat, John, Elise, you guys had some commentary that I don't need to go any further. We know where we need to go with it. Dana, unfortunately, probably was thrown under the bus, just a little bit. However, I think he's feeling that heat. And at this point, it is what it is. I trust you guys to take care of the situation. And I trust our public and our volunteers to have the patience with you guys, because if they truly want this project, they're not going to step on your toes anymore. You're doing the best that you can, and I applaud you all for doing the best that you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call, public comment. Seeing that, bring it back to council for any further discussion. Would we like to entertain a motion to approve the drone survey?
Oh.
I believe so.
I would like to move that we receive the report, authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute a contract with Points West for completion of the drone survey up to $4,500 and provide any additional. I mean, I think our conversation has kind of gone in a particular direction, but that's as far as we need to go.
You want me to be hiring an attorney of some kind?
Drone survey first. Can we continue the conversation just to approve the drone survey?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get entertain a motion. So you made the motion?
I made a motion for 1 and 2.
Okay.
Recommended action.
Which are, can you repeat that?
Receive the report, authorize the city manager to execute Points West.
Okay. We have a motion by Scafani. Do we have a second? Seconded by Caleb. Further discussion? All of it. Go ahead.
My only point is, that $4,500 is coming out from the fundraiser money that was raised for the car show that was advertised for Parks and Rec. So I realize that this council approved the use of those funds.
You did. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So that's for what? I just, we had a
4-1.
And
complication.
yeah,
Let's not read it.
and respectfully, I love the corrective action plan that you put together, and I agree with this drone survey. I just don't agree with the payment having come from that.
So are you waiting for direction with Dana, or you were just giving us information? Are you waiting
I'm
for?
continuing to work with Dana and collecting information, and if I get additional information that I think is pertinent to what you guys need, I will supply it to you. And that's an ongoing conversation I'm having with him on what he has available.
So if you may provide you with information that we then potentially not receive, is that correct?
Well, no, I mean, like, you can come in and look at anything you want, but I can't provide a 150 gigabyte drone survey as part of the city manager's report. Some of the stuff is just not viable to supply. So I don't know what it's gonna bring.
I mean, I was hoping you'd come tonight and tell us his side of the story. We've been waiting for a year for him to come forward and be like, this is what I did, this is what happened, and fortunately he's not here tonight.
Yeah. Hopefully it shows up for me. We'll see.
Sure, that needs or will that be later on once we make a decision about what we're gonna do, once that little survey happens, that we'd like it to be a different engine. Get that. I mean, because sometimes we say things and we have conversation about it, or somebody says something, but it's not a collective. motion by the council to say, would that be later down the road?
And
It's my opinion the council's been very clear that no money should be spent unless authorized core donations are received to cover it. And at this point, other than the $4,500 that was already approved, there's been no such action. So it's not like the city manager has the authority to do anything else. That's why I said what I said. Like, if you guys really want to go down this path of forensic attorney or something, like, you need to give some direction for that. And we need to modify the budget.
sure.
And it really wasn't a forensic attorney, it's just somebody who would have the, you know, this special understanding of knowing. We've gotten to this place and how to make sure that.
I'd like to do that if we get to a point where, after receiving all the information from Dana, we come to a conclusion that we think maybe he should be paid by the city. But short of that, I don't know what you're gonna ask the attorney, other than, is it okay not to pay?
And my question, it goes beyond Dana, and it goes beyond that, it goes beyond this being a public works project, and it's open and active, and how we ensure that we can make this work and you know, in a legal way.
All right, are we ready to move on or any further discussion? All right, moving on to the next item. I know that we have legal counsel waiting. Do we wish to table any item?
There is no council correspondence.
Okay.
And unless you specifically want to talk about something on the city manager's report, there or a future agenda item.
Is there anything we would like to discuss on the future agenda item?
Yes.
Do you mean the city manager report? You said discuss on the future.
Oh.
Right.
If there are any
That's the first question.
Any public wish to comment on this manager's report?
I did have a question or two. I'll try and make it brief. Regarding the water tank project, there was no additional work and completed project this month. This escrow for this agreement is not progressing. We're all aware of that. And then it has a condition for updated appraisal. And I don't know how that would be relevant. The other question I have is, you had a letter that was basically a notice of termination agreement from the easement and joint escrow, which came out on July 8th. Yet that was not mentioned in the city manager's report yet. It was available and made available prior to this past being put together. I just had that one. The other one I have is the Blue Lake Library ADA. SHN submitted a concept. Well, I thought this was all engineered and approved and stamped and a long done deal. I remember them out there doing corrections, regrinding, repouring cement and everything during the process. And I was just curious how, with all that going on, we still have additional things. Hopefully the city won't have any cost to bear as far as that goes. It's either an engineering problem or an inspection problem that wasn't followed through on, and it's very sad to see, because I think we spent some of our other funds on that particular project, but I didn't think should be spent on that at that time. Things like that seem to happen during that time frame. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Further public comments?
We will have the city manager's report again.
I was not planning on doing that.
No.
Some of the stuff we divided up amongst the two meetings, because we can't be doing the same thing every 2 weeks. Like, I just can't.
Right.
So like the ad hoc committees and stuff are not on this agenda. They'll be on the next. And the city manager's reports on this one, but it won't be on the next one.
Agenda item.
Just for future agenda items, I think that we're gonna be bringing up, but it'll be about the city manager evaluation process, bringing that forward.
Will a city clerk evaluation be passed?
I'm not touching that. Who are you?
I think, yes, I think.
No, I'm teasing.
To talk about the city clerk.
We vote.
I would appreciate that.
All right.
And Terry, if you will correct me and dial me in if I'm wrong, but let me know, but
financial policy, or sometimes we call it fiscal policy of the city. Terry and I are both ad hoc on that. And there are two portions that we would like to come forward with, or at least to begin to introduce to the council. One would be, kind of loosely described as windfall funds, donations and grants to develop policy on that. And then also fraud, waste and abuse. So Terry's done a lot of good research already. Some good stuff maybe. So hopefully we can bring some things in that are pretty well fleshed out, just that used by every city.
All right, public comment on closed session before we do go into closed session.
And again, regarding your significant exposure to litigation from Danco there, your item B, if I recall, they have a bill, they say we've incurred these kind of expenses, but we'll take $200,000 just to buy it out of this. And I strongly suggest, I don't see any ground that I've seen in this particular item. And I strongly suggest that you deny their claim and go ahead and turn that over to your insurance carrier. I'm guessing you'd be covered on that one. You'd have a deductible. I don't see any reason to go ahead and give them the $200,000. Danco is wrapped up in some very interesting things at this time. They may have some major things that they've made some mistakes on out in Samoa. They don't get some things done for the county that they were obligated to do as the conditions of major subdivision. They possibly will have their bond pulled, and when your bond pulled in your contract, it means you're out of business. You can't bond anymore. So they've got enough other problems on their plate. I think they'd be best to just let this go, and that's what I strongly suggest. Number C, you have a legal counsel anticipated initiation of litigation, and always be careful when you're doing those things. There's something called a counter lawsuit. You always, in my opinion, best to be on a different position, but always make sure that you have a winning case, because that's money out of our pocket. I don't believe when we, this is a question, when we initiate litigation, do any of our insurance or liabilities policies cover us on that, or are we strictly working out of pocket? So they have an opportunity to ask those questions. And again, we really appreciate a report out would come out in some form that we can see the next day, because we're not going to be up till 12:30 to be down here to see you report out.
Why not?
Why not? Well, you never know. Make an incentive for us to stay here that long. But anyway, we do appreciate that being reported out. And if it can't be done, it may be even better not to do it on social media, but actually do your reports out on your websites, your official city website. And that would enable the people to hear what got reported out, because it's not on the recording, is my understanding, as far as the report out. So that's a consideration that the public appreciates.
Further public comment? Julie, go ahead.
Thanks, guys, for hanging in there. I know you got a long night. I'm just going to concur again with what Kent just laid out for you guys. One thing you can do is resume your kind of like your Zoom recording a little bit for that. Also, I always catch your guys' reporting out on social media, but I think the webpage just kind of keeps everybody happy. You know what I'm saying? As far as Danco potential, that's even, because we always have to speculate on closed session, so excuse us if we're always misguessing. We just have to concur with Kent. These guys were a lost wheel, and I'm sorry we got tied up with them. It wasn't your fault, but also they know that they were negligent and misrepresented with the process along the way. And if we really have to dig out archives and beg for the videos that were never recorded from our prior manager, I know they got to be there somewhere, but we can get our way out of a lot of stuff just with the past dialogue. Otherwise, whatever you guys are moving forward on, I totally concur. I'm glad you got your feet underneath you to do that. But I will talk to him with Kent, make sure you got him, and get him down, dude. It's been long enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul. Seeing none. Let's go into closed session.
Motion.
So moved.
Motion made by Stefani, do we have a second? Seconded by Bailiff, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Going to close up, thank you very much.